Chapter 1873. The Eastern Royal Immortal Realms controlled by the Ziwei Divine Court have been plunged into misery and suffering after so many years. It was unknown how many people died mysteriously. And the main culprit of all this was now in an exquisite chamber of the Eastern Royal Palace, enjoying the taste of a beauty. Yu Changkong stood up and stared at the jade-white body on the bed. His evil eyes flashed with a wondrous feeling. As for Dong Huang-ing, her eyes were empty, filled with hatred as she stared at Yu Changkong. During these years, she lived a life worse than death. She wanted to kill Yu Changkong countless times, but she couldn't do it. Yu Changkong was too powerful. She tried again and again, only to be trampled on again and again. She lived in regret every day. Back then she provoked this devil. Not only did he humiliate her, he also humiliated many beauties in the Eastern Royal Palace. As for the men who opposed him, they all died. Right now, Yu Changkong was the absolute authority in the Eastern Royal Palace. Only those who submitted to him would be able to occupy high positions. Right now, those in control of the Eastern Royal Palace were all his lackeys. So many years have passed, but you are still so beautiful. Yu Changkong's aura changed again compared to the past. He became even more evil. His face was pale white and his fingertips slid across the fair body before him. When he sensed that wondrous feeling, a look of intoxication appeared on his face. How beautiful! Are you still human now? Dong Huang-ing stared at Yu Changkong in humiliation. Her tone was so cold that it could pierce the bones. However, Yu Changkong didn't care. He smiled at the woman before him and didn't reply. After that, he turned and departed. Dong Huang-ing wore her clothes and walked outside. She came to the sacrificial altar of the Eastern Royal Palace. This was the place where the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court were worshipped. She would come here every day, and today was no exception. She knelt before the sacrificial altar and had a sincere look on her face. Although it has been so many years, she didn't give up. This was her only hope. Yu Changkong knew that she would come here every day, but he had never stopped her. The Ziwei Divine Court? If the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court came, they wouldn't have waited until today. All of this was tacitly permitted by the Ziwei Divine Court. Every time Yu Changkong thought of this, his heart would turn incomparably cold. Dong Huang-ing knelt 3 times and kowtowed 9 times, praying in front of the altar. She sincerely spoke, "If heavenly deities can hear my voice, please come down to the lower realms and take a look at the current Eastern Royal Immortal Realms." Boom! In the air, a thunderous boom suddenly rang out, shaking the heavens and earth. A beam of light appeared in the air as the silhouette of a deity bathed in boundless light descended from the sky. Dong Huang-ing was stunned when she saw this scene. After that, a look of wild joy appeared on her face as she kowtowed with all her might. Heavenly deity! Did the heavenly deities of the Ziwei Divine Court finally descend? At this moment, countless people in the Eastern Royal Palace trembled. Those who were enslaved by Yu Changkong all had looks of joy on their faces as hope appeared in their hearts. As for those who followed Yu Changkong, their eyes were filled with fear. Clearly, they also knew what they had done during these years. Yu Changkong. A voice rang out from the sky as divine might bore down. Yu Changkong's silhouette flashed as he appeared in the air, staring up at the heavenly deity who just descended. He knelt in the air, his hands and feet were parallel to each other as he spoke with incomparable sincerity and respect. "Disciple Yu Changkong pays my respects to Master. Yu Changkong, you said that you would govern the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms well. Is this the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms you have governed?" The heavenly deity in the air coldly spoke. His voice was like heavenly might, ringing out in the ears of everyone. At this moment, tears flowed down Dong Huang-ying's face. Did she finally see the heavenly deity? Right now, a heavenly deity has descended and punished Yu Changkong. That devil was finally going to get his retribution. "Master, disciple has been working hard to govern the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms well through these years." Yu Changkong knelt there as he spoke. "You still dare to be stubborn?" The heavenly deity's expression was cold. After that, he glanced at Dong Huang-ing and asked, "Seems like I was careless and caused such a calamity to befall me. What happened in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms during these years? Heavenly Deity, during these years, Yu Changkong has committed all sorts of evil deeds in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms, killing the people of the Donghuang clan. Those who follow him will live, those who oppose him will die. Also, he is incomparably cruel, using the lives of all living beings in the world to cultivate his evil methods. It's unknown how many people died because of this, and many cities were turned into ghost cities. Dong Huangying's tears flowed as she complained. The expression of the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court grew colder and colder. He stared at Yu Changkong. I didn't expect that a vile creature like you would actually commit such heinous crimes here. Vile creature, do you deserve to die? Master, disciple will never commit such crimes again in the future. Master, please spare my life. Yu Changkong's body trembled as he knelt and begged for mercy. If I knew this would happen, I would have taken your life back then. Who would have thought that my moment of benevolence would result in such a calamity? The heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court coldly spoke. At this moment, constellation light descended from the sky, forming a terrifying constellation formation that enveloped Yu Changkong. The boundless constellation light instantly seeped into Yu Changkong's body as a terrifying emperor might gushed forth from the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court. Master, please spare my life. Yu Changkong screamed in terror. However, there was only coldness in the eyes of the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court. The constellation light seeped into his body, causing Yu Changkong's body to gradually dissipate. It felt like he was about to be absorbed into the constellation light, entering the body of the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court. In the blink of an eye, Yu Changkong's body completely vanished from this world. Upon seeing this scene, Dong Huangying sat on the ground as tears flowed down her face. Has that devil finally died? Everything is finally coming to an end. I will send people to the lower world to reorganize the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms. The heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court spoke. However, at the instant his voice faded, his expression suddenly changed. A moment later, a gray sky appeared in the air. In the boundless space of the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms, strands of gray energy flowed over, resembling death chi. These gray energy currents frenziedly flowed towards the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court. What demon-level creature are you? The heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court roared. Master, how can you treat your disciple like this? A voice drifted over from the void. The expression of the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court suddenly changed, becoming extremely unsightly to behold. How could this be possible? Yu Changkong was struck by his divine art. How could he still be alive? Master, you intentionally left me alive until today before killing me. Do you think this disciple doesn't know your purpose? The so-called Ziwei divine art can also be an evil art with a divine will. You knew that I obtained this evil art in the world of reincarnation and also wanted to obtain it. Hence, you allowed me to come to the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms, allowing me to comprehend it until now. Only when I'm about to comprehend my divine will did you come here to seize everything from me, wanting to take it for yourself. Master, is what disciple said right? Yu Changkong's voice was very soft, yet it felt extremely bizarre. The entire world seemed to be immersed in a strange atmosphere. When Dong Huangying heard Yu Changkong's voice, her face turned pale. How could this be possible? Why hasn't he died yet? In addition, when she heard Yu Changkong's words, a look of deep despair appeared on her face. Could it be that all of this was tacitly approved by the heavenly deity? A lofty heavenly deity could only watch as Yu Changkong wreaked havoc in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms. It was all for the sake of Yu Changkong, and after that, they wanted to seize everything from him. Was this really a lofty heavenly deity? Vile creature, scram out of my body. The heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court coldly spoke. Haha. An extremely evil laughter rang through the air. From the boundless regions of the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms, countless strands of gray energy that resembled ghosts flew over, frenziedly entering the body of the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court. Gradually, a gigantic face actually appeared behind the head of the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court. This was none other than the face of Yu Changkong, an evil gray face. Master, today, disciple is sacrificing myself to seek the Tao. For the sake of the true intent of the great Tao, many thanks to Master for helping disciple take the final step. The evil face behind the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court actually spoke in a human voice. Yu Changkong's physical body was already destroyed. It could indeed be said that he was sacrificing himself to seek the Tao. His purpose was to enter his master's soul. He had long since understood his master's cultivation methods and had already guessed what his master would do to him. He cultivated so frenziedly because he wanted a chance to fight for his life before his master acted against him. Even after his master appeared, he still knelt and begged for mercy. Because if he didn't beg, he wouldn't have the chance to enter his master's soul and execute the Tao he comprehended. It was impossible for him to kill a heavenly deity like his master. A vile creature that can even sacrifice his physical body, yet you still dare to have such wishful thinking. The heavenly deity coldly spoke. Boundless violet divine light cascaded down from the sky, transforming into resplendent light that illuminated the sky. It was like a divine art, penetrating through the heavenly deity's body and into his soul. Yu Changkong's illusory face started trembling unstably. Ever since Master punished me back then, I've already offered my body to the devil. Right now, all the vengeful souls in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms can be used by me. Since I've already reached this step, it's impossible for me to fail. Yu Changkong opened his mouth and roared. In the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms, countless souls frenziedly flew over, unceasingly stabilizing Yu Changkong's illusory face and corroding the soul of the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court. Below, countless people felt their bodies turning cold when they saw this scene. One was a lofty heavenly deity while the other was a disciple of a heavenly deity. Their conversation caused countless people to feel a bone-piercing chill. Very cold. Was this the world of cultivation? It was actually so cruel and terrifying. A heavenly deity was like this. A heavenly deity's disciple was like this as well. Dong Huangying also felt her body turning cold. So it turned out that the heavenly deity had always been aware of everything that happened in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms. He only wanted to nurture Yu Changkong and take him for himself. As for Yu Changkong, he could no longer be considered a human. How ridiculous! The heavenly deity she begged for so many years, was there any difference between him and Yu Changkong? He was also the main culprit behind the nightmare of the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms. At this moment, she involuntarily thought back to the radiant face she saw in the convention back then. That person had once warned her to be careful of Yu Changkong. Why didn't she listen to him back then? Right now, Dong Huangying's heart was like dead ashes. Even the shocking battle between Yu Changkong and the heavenly deity in the air didn't interest her at all. No matter who won or lost, what meaning was there to her? Her heart had already died. After a very long time, the terrifying battle in the air finally concluded. Yu Changkong's gray figure vanished. The heavenly deity of the Ziwei divine court stood arrogantly in the air. But at this moment, an evil malevolent smile flashed in his eyes as he spoke in an impudent voice. Finally, I succeeded. This voice actually sounded like Yu Changkong's voice. After that, the face of the heavenly deity gradually twisted and transformed into Yu Changkong's face. His master wanted to seize everything from him. Wasn't he the same as well? You asked me if I'm a human or not. Let me tell you now, I'm not a human. I'm a god. Yu Changkong stared at Dong Huangying below as a sinister smile appeared on his face. That pitiful master of his was too arrogant. Now, he has paid the price for everything he did in the past. Chapter 1874. The Eastern Royal Immortal Realms was a lower world governed by the Ziwei Divine Court. However, it was impossible for such a major incident to be hidden. After all, the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms weren't sealed like Azure Mystic. People from the upper worlds would also travel to the lower worlds. A piece of news circulated through the supreme ancient immortal realms. First, it spread to the mystic region. After that, it caused great waves of commotion. Yu Changkong devoured his master. In addition, it was because his master, a heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court, coveted his evil art and wanted to seize his soul. This was the reason why Yu Changkong retaliated against him. To the Ziwei divine court, this was an absolute scandal. The Ziwei divine court wanted to suppress this news, but they couldn't stop the speed at which it circulated. However, many people were curious. How did Yu Changkong accomplish this? How could he kill a heavenly deity? After that, everything Yu Changkong did in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms was exposed. After he came out from the world of reincarnation, he relied on the evil art he comprehended to refine countless lives in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms. Initially, it was impossible for the heavenly deity from the Ziwei divine court to die in Yu Changkong's hands. However, his greed caused Yu Changkong to enter his soul. After that, Yu Changkong suffered a backlash from the millions of souls Yu Changkong had refined, causing the heavenly deity's body to be occupied. After that, Yu Changkong entered the Ziwei divine court. It was said that a deity-level battle erupted in the Ziwei divine court, and after that, Yu Changkong officially replaced his master, becoming one of the rulers of the Ziwei divine court. This once again caused a huge commotion. No one knew the exact details behind Yu Changkong entering the Ziwei divine court, but the Ziwei divine court actually accepted Yu Changkong. Yu Changkong's actions in the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms were already considered a great sin. Although many heavenly deities weren't as dazzling as they appeared on the surface and had dirty histories, they would still show some taboo on the surface and wouldn't commit any great sins. After the Great Devil Divine Palace learned of this matter, they started to humiliate the Ziwei divine court, saying that they weren't worthy to have a foothold in the mystic region and were on the same level as the Great Devil Divine Palace. Both parties originally already had many conflicts, and it was very normal for the Great Devil Divine Palace to say such things during this period of time. But after that, those who said such things all died mysteriously. In fact, there were even several world overlords from the Great Devil Divine Palace who were killed unknowingly. This matter completely infuriated the Great Devil Divine Palace, and the conflict between them grew even more intense. It seemed like the profound domain was about to fall into chaos. But no matter how the people of the world cursed him, their thoughts about Yu Changkong were extremely complicated. One couldn't help but say that the person who was once mocked by the people of the world was actually walking on the path of a heretical god. From a certain perspective, the current Yu Changkong has already achieved what he wanted. He stepped into the heavenly deity realm, a realm that countless people yearned for. Even if the people of the world despised him, if Yu Changkong truly appeared before them, who would dare to show any disrespect? This news circulated through the supreme ancient immortal realms. Luo Shenlei, who was in the desolate region, naturally knew about it. After that, she transmitted her voice to Qin Wenyan about this. Qin Wenyan also didn't expect that Yu Changkong would actually devour a god and replace him, using an evil method to step into the heavenly deity realm. He sighed in his heart at how terrifying the world of reincarnation was. He had also cultivated evil arts before and knew that although the evil arts of the world of reincarnation couldn't be used directly in the outside world, they could still be used as a reference. In addition, cultivating evil arts in the world of reincarnation allowed one to see one's true heart. Yu Changkong had completely unleashed the evil side of his heart. In the words of the cultivation world, Yu Changkong's Tao heart was extremely resilient and incomparably stable, surpassing countless people. Even if he refined billions of lives, he wouldn't feel any guilt at all. He had already completely lost his humanity. Such a Tao was truly terrifying. Qin Wenyan then thought of the mysterious white-robed young man he met in the legendary place. What sort of existence was he exactly to be able to create a world of reincarnation that seemed to know the will of the heavens? Yu Changkong was merely a typical example among the geniuses who entered the world of reincarnation. In truth, before him, Reverend's 7 abstinences had already completed his Tao and entered the heavenly deity realm. Most probably, there would be a few more terrifying characters among the other geniuses. Back then, Qin Dangtian forcefully entered the sacred academy for the sake of entering the legendary place. The 3 heavenly deities didn't want him to enter the legendary place because they were worried about him. Given Qin Dangtian's supreme talent and his heavenly deity cultivation base, If he entered the world of reincarnation, he didn't know what would happen. But in the end, Qin Dangtian chose to give up because he wouldn't allow any power to destroy his Tao. Elder brother, you have to be careful of Yu Changkong. He has already completely lost his mind. I heard that during these years, Dong Huang-ing has been living in humiliation. After he returned to the Ziwei Divine Court, his martial uncle and senior brothers were also in a miserable state. The person Yu Changkong hates the most is most probably you, elder brother. Luo Xunlei, who was currently conversing with Qin Wendian, reminded. Her elder brother was like Yu Changkong's nemesis. Back then during the convention of the Myriad Realms, Yu Changkong was defeated by her elder brother. After they exited the convention, it was the same. In the world of reincarnation, it was still the same. I know. If it wasn't for me, Yu Changkong wouldn't be able to become who he is today. Qin Wendian sighed. This was the karma of the world. If it wasn't for him, Yu Changkong would be a genius of the Ziwei Divine Court now, enjoying boundless glory. He wouldn't be so evil. Humans are like this, they would be exposed sooner or later. Even without elder brother, it would still be the same. Luo Xunlei spoke. Naturally, Yu Changkong relied on despicable methods to devour deities. Elder brother, you have also killed heavenly deities before. I believe that in the future, you will still be his nemesis. Elder brother, when will you step into the deity realm? How would I know? I keep feeling that I'm still lacking something. Qin Wendian smiled. It wasn't so easy to step into the deity realm. Right now, his comprehension of the Tao has already reached an extremely high level. In fact, he even comprehended some of the methods of heavenly deities. However, he still felt that he was lacking a little. Maybe, the time for good fortune hasn't arrived yet. Oh, is that so? Luo Xunlei seemed to be mumbling to herself. Although they were separated by a vast distance, Qin Wendian could still sense something. He asked, do you have something you want to tell me? Let me think about it. Luo Xunlei giggled. Don't hide anything from me. Qin Wendian spoke again. Could it be that something happened in the desolate region? Nothing. Luo Xunlei replied. It's just that something happened in the heaven region. I'm hesitating if I should tell elder brother about it or not. What's the matter? Qin Wendian asked. Luo Xunlei fell silent for a moment before she replied, The heaven vault has opened. Heaven vault. Qin Wendian's heart trembled. This name was the name of a secret realm in the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was a legendary secret realm and he had only seen it once before. It was in the Heavenly Tao Library in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. However, he had a deep impression of it, because this secret realm named Heaven Vault was the place where two heavenly deities, Qin Tiangang and his wife, died. As for Qin Tiangang and his wife, they were his grandfather and grandmother. It was precisely because of the death of his grandfather and grandmother that his father became an orphan, causing his father's status in the clan to be far inferior to Qin Zheng's. This caused the Qin clan's divine hall, which was once extremely prosperous, to become desolate and desolate. Qin Wendian naturally understood what kind of impact the death of two heavenly deities would have on the status of the Qin clan. The martial world was an extremely realistic one. If it wasn't for the death of Qin Tiangang and his wife, the history of the Qin clan might have been rewritten. Right now, the secret realm where his grandparents died, the Heaven Vault had opened. In other words, the entrance to the Heaven Vault had appeared. No wonder Luo Xunlei was hesitating. Clearly, she knew some things and was worried that given Qin Wendian's personality, he might enter the Heaven Vault to take a look. Elder brother, I heard Grandpa saying that your grandparents died when they barged into the Heaven Vault. Luo Xunlei softly spoke. Earlier when you asked me when I would break through to the heavenly deity realm, were you trying to probe me? Qin Wendian sighed. Do you not want to tell me? Initially, I didn't want to tell elder brother. I was afraid that you would go there after knowing about it. After all, the Heaven Vault is a place where even heavenly deities might die if they aren't careful. But if I don't tell you, you would surely blame me if you knew about it in the future. Luo Xunlei felt a little wronged. From the perspective of emotions, she wanted to hide this from Qin Wendian. Silly lass. Qin Wendian smiled. That is the Heaven Vault. There are dangers, but could it be that there aren't any opportunities? Also, I've read about the Heaven Vault in the ancient records in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Every time the Heaven Vault opens, there would be many experts entering. Although there would be heavenly deities dying there, the probability is very low. My grandparents might have died because they entered too deep and entered a place they shouldn't have. Elder brother, you can't really be thinking of going there, right? Luo Shenlei felt a sense of unease when she heard Qin Wentian's tone. As expected, after her elder brother learned of the news, he immediately had some thoughts. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have said anything. I'll set off now and prepare to head to the Heaven region. Qin Wentian spoke. Luo Shenlei was speechless. She called out, Elder brother Lei, let's do it like this. I'm preparing to set off. I've always wanted to head to the Heaven region to take a look. Also, in the future, I will eventually have to step into that place. I might as well take this opportunity to head there. Qin Wentian spoke. The 8 regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms, Heaven, Earth, Mystic, Yellow, Cosmos, Chaos, Desolate, and the Heaven region were located in the middle. The powerful Qin clan was located in the Heaven region. Just like what he said, he would definitely step into that place in the future. But now, he had to head there in advance. Wendian. Just when Qin Wendian wanted to keep his messaging crystal, a tender voice rang out. Qin Wendian started, Little rascal, why do you have the time to think of me? Are your days on the Demon God Mountain very enjoyable? That's true. I'm the one and only heaven-devouring Demon King. I heard from Lei that you want to head to the Heaven region. Since the Demon God Mountain is heading there as well, I'm preparing to go together with you. Little rascal spoke. With just you? Qin Wendian spoke in disdain. You better stay by the Demon Sovereign's side and cultivate for a period of time. Damn it, you dare to look down on me? Wendian, I'm very strong now. You better not lose to me in the future. Little rascal boasted. Fine, as long as the Demon Sovereign doesn't have any objections, it's up to you. I really want to see how strong you are now. Qin Wendian laughed. It has been many years since he last saw Little Rascal. Cultivating by the side of the heaven-devouring Demon Sovereign was indeed the most suitable place for him. He should have undergone a transformation, right? Chapter 1875. The supreme ancient immortal realms were boundlessly vast. It was unknown how far the distance between the various regions was. However, there were many supreme spatial arrays in the supreme ancient immortal realms that could allow one to travel across regions. In Tiandao Sacred Academy, there were spirit arrays that led to the various domains. Of course, Tiandao Sacred Academy was not the only one that had them. Hence, after the news of the opening of the Heaven Vault circulated out, experts from the various immortal realms all headed towards the location of the Heaven Vault. The commotion caused by Yu Changkong in the immortal realms faded away. The attention of the Heaven Vault was diverted away. The Heaven Vault was one of the most famous secret realms in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Even now, the people of the supreme ancient immortal realms had no idea what sort of existence the Heaven Vault was. They also didn't know what rules the Heaven Vault had when it opened. There were rumors saying that the Heaven Vault was connected to the outside world. There were also rumors saying that the Heaven Vault was a ruin left behind by a god king from ancient times. All sorts of rumors added a mysterious hue to the Heaven Vault. However, there was no need to doubt one thing. The Heaven Vault contained good fortune as well as danger. Every time the Heaven Vault opened, there would be people who obtained great fortune. At the same time, there would also be experts who died. In fact, if heavenly deities took too many risks, they might even die. The most shocking incident was many years ago when the Qin clan's immortal couple, Qin Tiangang and his wife, died. These two heaven-shaking immortal companions vanished from the Heaven Vault, causing their bloodline to fall into desolation. This caused Qin Yuanfeng to become a traitor of the Qin clan. Some of the elders who have lived for many years couldn't help but sigh in their hearts when they thought of this period of history. The opening of the Heaven Vault was in the boundless sea. This sea region could truly be said to be boundless. It was unknown how vast it was. On the other side of the boundless sea coast, there was Boundless City, a majestic city built by the sea. The experts there were as many as the clouds. Right now, it was unknown how many experts have arrived in this ancient city that has existed for countless years. Most probably, even heavenly deities would come here, wanting to take a look at the heaven vault. There was a heavenly deity in Boundless City. Although he didn't establish a power and was only an unaffiliated heavenly deity, his status in Boundless City was still transcendent. Many people who came to Boundless City would pay a visit to him. However, this heavenly deity didn't like crowds and would rarely meet with juniors. Hence, very few people were able to meet with this heavenly deity. But today, this god of heaven had prepared a banquet at home to welcome guests. This heavenly god was none other than deity Chu. And the guest he welcomed was the Qin clan's patriarch, Qin Zheng. As the patriarch of the powerful Qin clan, Qin Zheng rarely paid a visit to others. But today, he actually came to Boundless City to pay a visit to deity Chu. At the banquet in Chu Shen's residence, not only was Qin Zheng present, his son, the heaven son of the heaven region, Qin Dang Tian, was present as well. Right now, Chu Shen had no descendants. Back then when he was roaming the heaven vault, he died and left behind a daughter. This daughter was none other than Chu Shen's granddaughter, the #1 beauty of the heaven region, Goddess Nikhang. Goddess Nikhang was also at the banquet. It's been a long time since I've come to visit Uncle Chu. Now that I see that you're doing well, I can finally relax a little. Before I came here, I met with my father. My father told me to tell you that he misses Uncle Chu, said Qin Zheng. His father was Qin Ding. You're too kind. Chu Shen slightly nodded. Even though Qin Zheng was behaving like a junior to him, he knew in his heart that regardless of whether it was status, identity, or strength, this young man before him had already surpassed him. As the Qin clan leader, just by relying on this identity, it was already a great honor for Qin Zheng to pay a visit to him. A single sentence from Qin Zheng could cause the entire immortal realms to tremble. That's what I should do. All right, Uncle Chu, how are your injuries? Qin Zheng asked in concern. If people in the outside world knew about this, they would surely be shocked. Chu Shen, who was a heavenly deity, actually had injuries on his body and he had yet to fully recover after so many years. Same as before, but I can still suppress them. I have to thank Brother Qin Ding for sending divine medicines to me every year. Chu Shen nodded. That's good. Qin Zheng nodded. After that, his gaze landed on Goddess Nikhang as he smiled. Nikhang is growing more and more beautiful. As expected of the #1 beauty of our heaven region, your talent is also first-rate. In addition, you are the descendant of Brother Chu. In the entire heaven region, there aren't many people who are a match for you. These words of praise caused Chu Shen to understand that the main topic was probably here. Qin Zheng, the Qin clan leader, personally came here to pay a visit. It wasn't just for a simple reason. My son Dang Tian is known as the Heaven Son. There's no need to say anything about his talent. This brat's eyes are at the top of his head, and in the vast immortal realms, it's rare for there to be a few people he would look favorably upon. Only Brother Chu's daughter remains in his mind. This can also be considered fate. Right now, Dang Tian has already attained the Tao for many years, and Nikhang has also reached the peak of the world overlord realm. Uncle Chu, Qin Zheng, is thick-skinned and came here to propose marriage. Qin Zheng smiled as he toasted Chu Shen. His purpose for coming here was precisely to propose marriage. After all, the marriage of his son was a major matter. He still had to give Chu Shen face. Chu Shen wasn't surprised by this. He had long guessed that this was the reason why Qin Zheng came here. If not, Qin Zheng wouldn't have intentionally made a trip to see him. Turning his gaze to his granddaughter Nikhang, Chu Shen sighed in his heart. Although from an emotional point of view, he didn't wish for Nikhang to marry Qin Dang Tian. But from an analysis of logic, maybe this was a good ending for Nikhang. Qin Dang Tian, Heaven's son, a supreme talent, the future leader of the Qin clan. If Nikhang married Qin Dang Tian, she would become the future mother of the Qin clan. Her future would undoubtedly be guaranteed. He also believed that Qin Dang Tian wouldn't mistreat his granddaughter. After all, the #1 beauty of the heaven region wasn't an undeserved reputation. For people in the world, no matter how high their cultivation bases were, who wouldn't love beauties? In addition, Qin Dangtian didn't have to choose between a mountain and a beauty. The Qin clan was a mountain, and to him, it was something he could easily obtain. As for beauties, the number one beauty of the heaven region, Goddess Nikhang, was undoubtedly his best choice. Hence, he left the choice to his granddaughter. Goddess Nichang's expression was very calm. There was no surprise nor joy, she was as calm as water. Her face was so beautiful, it was like nothing in the world would be able to move her heart. Qin Dangtian turned his gaze to Goddess Nikhang. His magnificence was unmatched, and there were only a few people in the world who could enter his eyes. But when he looked at the woman before him, he would always wonder when he would be able to make her smile. If she smiled, what would she look like? He had never seen her smile before. Maybe she was born like this, holy and perfect. She would never smile. Qin Dangtian mused in his heart. However, he didn't know that Goddess Nikhang had smiled before. There was someone who had seen her smile before. That day, in the world of reincarnation, under the rainbow. Sadly, Qin Dangtian didn't have the chance to see such a beautiful scene. Seeing that Goddess Nikhang didn't say anything, Qin Zheng spoke. Before this, a few members of my Qin clan once said some dirty words to Dangtian, implicating the descendants of that younger brother of mine. Now, I've brought them here as well. After Qin Zheng spoke, he turned his head and coldly spoke, "Why are you still not scramming over? Kneel down and apologize." At the side, 3 world overlords from the Qin clan had pale expressions, but they still walked out. They actually knelt to Goddess Nikhang. "The 3 of us have offended Miss Nikhang before. We beg for Miss Nichang's forgiveness." They once had evil intentions towards Goddess Nikhang because they cultivated an evil art in the world of reincarnation. After they came out, they intentionally told Qin Dangtian that Goddess Nikhang had an affair with Qin Wenin. But clearly, they failed, and the consequences were extremely miserable. The Qin clan leader, Qin Zheng, personally came to propose marriage. Goddess Nikhang would become the future matriarch of the Qin clan. Goddess Nikhang coldly glanced at the 3 of them. She naturally wouldn't complain to Qin Zheng that the 3 of them had ill intentions towards her. That wasn't her personality. She only coldly spoke, "Get out." The 3 of them started. They glanced at Qin Zheng only to hear Qin Zheng speaking, "Why are you all still not scramming?" The 3 of them bowed and left, feeling incomparably humiliated in their hearts. But so what of it? Before them, other than Heaven's son Qin Dangtian, there was still the Qin clan leader, Qin Zheng. He could decide their fates. Given Qin Zheng's prestige in the Qin clan, no one would dare to provoke him. Goddess Nikhang calmly watched the scene. Her beautiful eyes landed on Qin Dangtian before glancing at her grandfather. She was very clear about the matters between her grandfather and the Qin clan. Her grandfather had told her everything without hiding anything. In addition, she also knew what her grandfather's attitude towards this matter was. Her grandfather wasn't willing to marry her, but he still hoped that she would have a good ending. If not, she would be the source of trouble. After she learned of everything, she was also unwilling in her heart. However, when her beautiful eyes turned to Qin Dangtian, she still nodded lightly. Seeing her nod, smiles appeared in the eyes of Qin Zheng and Qin Dangtian. "Good, good." Qin Zheng raised his wine cup and smiled. "Although I have no fate to be friends with senior brother Chu, I would often hear my father mentioning him. I believe that if senior brother Chu could see the matters today, he would definitely feel gratified." After the banquet, Qin Zheng bid his farewell and left. Qin Dangtian left as well. After they left, the banquet turned silent. Only Chu Shen and Goddess Nikhang were still around. Chu Shen stared at his granddaughter and spoke, "You don't have to worry about me." Goddess Nichang's expression was calm, she didn't reply. Chu Shen continued, "You have met Yuanfeng's son before and interacted with him in the world of reincarnation. Between him and Qin Deng, who do you like more?" Goddess Nikhang blinked her beautiful eyes as she stared at her grandfather. Who did she like more? How was she supposed to reply? I must have been muddle-headed. Whose personality do you like more? Chu Shen smiled and shook his head. Goddess Nikhang thought of the young man she once met in the world of reincarnation as well as Qin Dangtian. She then spoke in a light voice. Qin Dangung gives off a sense of distance. Chu Shun started when he heard Goddess Nichang's words. After that, he laughed. Yeah, this phrase is very well used. The sense of distance. Qin Ding and Qin Zheng are the same as well. Compared to them, Tiangang and Yuan Feng. As he spoke, he sighed in his heart and shook his head. What a pity! Clearly, Chu Shun not only knew Qin Ding and Qin Zheng, he also knew Qin Tiangang and Qin Yuan Feng. Chapter 1876. The news of heaven's son Qin Dang Tian marrying the number one beauty of the heaven region, Goddess Nikhang, soon circulated around Boundless City. After all, Goddess Nikhang was staying in Boundless City. Countless people were envious, but they also felt that this was only natural. The heaven's son and the number one beauty of the heaven region were too compatible. They were another celestial couple, causing everyone to feel envy in their hearts. However, there were also many people who felt disappointed. Goddess Nikhang was a goddess that couldn't be profaned. Would she eventually marry someone? Although they felt disappointed, many geniuses in Boundless City could only accept it. They knew that they would never be able to compare to Qin Dang Tian regardless of status or talent. What a pity, the goddess in the hearts of countless geniuses in Boundless City would eventually have to marry into the Qin clan. In a top grade inn in Boundless City, the experts from the Nine Heavens Mystical Palace also arrived. The mystical maiden personally came. Because she arrived, Lin Shao arrived as well and came here to look for her. When he arrived, he smiled. Goddess Nikhang has agreed to the marriage with Qin Dang Tian and will be marrying into the Qin clan. When will you agree to marry me? The people from the Nine Heavens Mystical Palace glared at Lin Shao when they heard his words. The mystical maiden was the successor of the Nine Heavens Mystical Palace. She would never marry an outsider. Naturally, they understood Lin Zhao's personality very well. He was a magnanimous person and the people from the Nine Heavens Mystical Palace didn't hate him. Right now, Qin Wenyan, who was already in Boundless City, also heard of this news. The news of Goddess Nichang's marriage caused a huge commotion in Boundless City. It would be difficult even if one didn't want to know about it. This time around, he brought Qi Yu and Jun Mingchen with him. The two of them also wanted to roam the heaven vault together. After learning of this news, Jun Mingchen cursed in a low voice. What a pity! The number one beauty in the world is actually going to marry that bastard. There was no need to doubt that after Qin Wentian's true identity was exposed, Jun Mingchen naturally wouldn't have any good impression of the Qin clan. This was especially so after he learned of what happened to Qin Wentian's father in the past. That was like his own hatred. As for Qin Dang Tian, it could be said that Jun Mingchen was the son of the person who killed his senior brother's father. His attitude towards Qin Dang Tian could very well be imagined. Qin Wentian also felt somewhat uncomfortable in his heart. In the world of reincarnation, although he didn't speak much with Goddess Nikhang, she did save him. Also, they had an experience together. Even now, he could still remember the beautiful scene after the thunderstorm. That beautiful silhouette standing at the peak of the mountain, illuminated by the rainbow. In his heart, he already treated Goddess Nikhang as his friend. Even though they didn't have any interactions after they left the world of reincarnation. If Goddess Nikhang really married his enemy Qin Dang Tian, in that case, in the future, there would definitely be a fated battle between him and Qin Dang Tian. At that time, how should he face Goddess Nikhang? Qin Wenyan felt somewhat complicated in his heart. The three of them arrived at the Boundless Sea coast. The Boundless Sea was truly boundless. In the sea region, the waves churned unceasingly. However, in the sky, a magnificent scene could be seen. At the point where the sea and the sky connected, the Eye of Heavens seemed to have appeared. This Eye of Heavens was like a crack in the sky, revealing an entrance to the heaven vault. Over there was none other than the heaven vault. That Eye of Heavens was none other than the entrance to the heaven vault. If one stood at the Boundless Sea coast and stared at the Boundless Sea region ahead, they would discover that there were people everywhere. From the Boundless Sea coast all the way to the sea region below the heaven vault, there were people everywhere. They floated on the surface of the sea, treading on the waves. Clearly, they were all experts who came here for the heaven vault. There are so many people. Jun Mingchen spoke. How vast was the sea? The heaven vault was located at the point where the sea and the sky connected. Although it seemed very close, it was unknown how far away it was. In such a vast stretch of sea region, one could see that there were people everywhere. From this, one could very well imagine how many experts had appeared on the boundless sea coast. Naturally, although there were many people here, those who truly had the courage to enter the heaven vault were most probably world overlords and heavenly deities. In the heaven vault, even deities would die. Although the possibility of this was very small, one could still see how dangerous the heaven vault was. Even world overlords would barely be able to enter the heaven vault. If the weaker ones entered, they wouldn't even know how they died, let alone obtaining any good fortune. A place that can attract heavenly deities, how can there not be many people here? Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice. Being able to attract heavenly deities meant that the vast majority of experts in the supreme ancient immortal realms were attracted. Those with lower cultivation bases wouldn't rush here from too far away. But for those with outstanding talent, most probably many of them would choose to come here, let alone the experts in the heaven region. Boom! In the air, a thunderous boom rang out as terrifying explosions rang out in the eardrums of everyone. A terrifying heavenly might descended from the sky, enveloping the boundless sea coast. After that, two groups of figures descended from the sky. One group radiated intense devil might, their auras towered up into the sky. This was especially so for the person in the lead. He was like a devil god, standing there like a statue, exuding a devilish intent that towered up into the sky. The experts beside him were all at the world overlord level. The people from the great devil divine palace of the mystic region have arrived. A heavenly deity has personally arrived. Someone exclaimed in admiration. Who is the person standing opposite him? There is actually someone who dares to oppose the great devil divine palace? Towering evil might, opposing the great devil divine palace. Could it be that you can't guess who it is? Someone at the side spoke in a light voice, staring at the pale-skinned demonic young man in the air. The expression of the person who spoke earlier trembled as he thought of someone. Great waves rose in his heart. Yu Changkong. That person mumbled. That demon-level character who caused the lives of the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms to be plunged into misery and suffering, refining millions and millions of lives, has actually arrived. In addition, he actually came together with the people from the great devil divine palace. The moment they arrived, a conflict immediately erupted. From this, one could very well imagine how intense the conflict between the two hegemonic powers of the mystic region was. As expected, he is neither a human nor a ghost. This person is so evil, he no longer has any humanity. This is why he would commit such a heinous sin and suffer the wrath of the heavens. Someone below cursed in a low voice, unable to bear the sight of Yu Changkong's character. An incomparably demonic smile appeared on Yu Changkong's face. He turned his gaze downwards and his evil-looking eyes landed on the person who insulted him earlier. You even dare to insult a heavenly deity? Yu Changkong laughed evilly. When that expert saw Yu Changkong smile, he was so frightened that his face turned pale. He didn't expect that Yu Changkong would actually notice him. Because of a single sentence, Yu Changkong's gaze locked onto him. Also, his smile was so evil, like a devil. Only to see that in the air, streams of gray energy swept through the air, frenziedly penetrating the body of the person who spoke earlier. That person screamed in agony and very swiftly, only a skeleton was left. His flesh and blood had completely vanished, causing everyone to feel a chill in their hearts. Who else has any complaints about me? You can voice them out now. Yu Changkong laughed malevolently. His gaze swept towards the sea region below. Everyone was silent out of fear as their hearts trembled. Seeing everyone shutting up, an evil smile appeared on Yu Changkong's face. Evil cultivator? So what of it? If he could obtain supreme strength, he was willing to give up everything. One day, when he dominated the immortal realms, who would dare to show any disrespect to him? Powerful strength represented everything. He didn't need the respect of the people of the world. He preferred for the people of the world to fear him. Fear was the most terrifying thing. Just like how at this moment, who dared to speak? Excellent. At this moment, a beam of treasure light suddenly appeared in the sky. After that, golden treasure light cascaded down from the sky. The boundless golden light gradually converged into a figure. It was a Buddhist grandmaster with a solemn and dignified appearance. His Dharma body traversed through the void and arrived. Everything in the world has karma. Yu Changkong, you have committed such great sins. In the future, you will surely face a calamity. The monk calmly spoke. Reverence 7 abstinences truly bemoans the state of the universe and pity the fate of mankind. If karma really exists in this world, what's the point of cultivation? We can just wait for the cycle of karma. Yu Changkong had an evil smile on his face. As for facing the tribulation, who would want me to face it? Master? Reverend 7 abstinences pressed his palms together and no longer looked at Yu Changkong. His golden body vanished as he flew towards the direction of the heaven vault. He didn't come here to argue with Yu Changkong, he came here for the heaven vault. Yu Changkong, you will suffer the consequences sooner or later. The devil god from the great devil divine palace coldly spoke. Yu Changkong laughed uproariously. When did devil cultivators change their personalities? They actually started to believe in the Buddha? The devil god flicked his sleeves and stepped out, not intending to argue any further. He led the experts from the great devil divine palace towards the heaven vault. When he walked past Yu Changkong, he asked, "Are you not going to enter the heaven vault? There's no need for you to worry about me. I'm still waiting for someone." Yu Changkong had a smile on his face. However, his smile seemed extremely evil no matter how one looked at it. The devil god from the great devil divine palace asked. Reverend 7 abstinences said that there's karma. If there's truly karma, the reason why I'm suffering today is because of the karma he planted in me back then. I naturally have to end this karma. Yu Changkong's smile was extremely cold. He knew that the person he was waiting for would definitely appear when the heaven vault opened. This was his premonition. In truth, the person he was waiting for was currently at the boundless sea coast. Qin Wenin inclined his head and stared at Yu Changkong in the air. His expression was cold. He didn't expect that Qin Wenin would succeed in his Tao. As for the person he was waiting for, it was clear that the person he was waiting for was none other than him, Qin Wenin. However, right now, he wasn't using his original appearance. Even for Jun Mingchen and Qiyu, they all used special methods to change their appearances. Qin Wenin didn't consider Yu Changkong, but the place he came from was the heaven region, the territory of the Qin clan. If he used his original appearance, would he be tired of living? Senior brother, should we move out? Jun Mingchen transmitted his voice to Qin Wenin. A person like Yu Changkong actually succeeded in his Tao by seizing someone else's body. This caused him to feel extremely unhappy. Yu Changkong was merely someone defeated by his senior brother, yet he was so shameless to impersonate his senior brother and obtain the God King's inheritance. No rush, let's see how many experts would enter the heaven vault first. Qin Wenin spoke. He was prepared to wait for a period of time at the boundless sea coast. All right then. Jun Mingchen nodded. After that, they continued to stay at the boundless sea coast. During this period of time, they saw Qin Dangtian. He invited goddess Nikhang over, and when they appeared, a huge commotion was caused. Countless people stared at this immortal couple with envy. Right now, they were already engaged. Under Qin Wentian's gaze, Qin Dangtian, goddess Nikhang and the people of the Qin clan all headed towards the entrance of the heaven vault. For the next period of time, he saw some familiar faces. These were the people he met in the world of reincarnation. One day, he saw another familiar figure. This person was someone he hadn't seen for a very long time. When he saw Qin Wenin in white robes appearing in the air above the boundless sea coast, Qin Wenin felt a myriad of emotions in his heart. He didn't expect to actually meet Qin Wenin here. He still remembered the words Qin Wenin said to him before he left back then. "I'll wait for you at the peak of the immortal realms." Chapter 1877. This person was none other than Hua Taishu. Qin Wenin knew that back then, after the myriad incarnations immortal king died, Hua Taishu's body underwent some changes. He had his own secrets. His aura was completely different compared to the past. He casually stood there, but he gave off a transcendent feeling. His gaze turned towards the heaven vault before turning back to the crowd of people on the shore. When his gaze landed on Qin Wenyan and the two others, he paused for a moment before shifting his gaze away again. But just as he shifted his gaze away, his eyes shifted back again as though he had sensed something. His eyes suddenly changed. There seemed to be a strange white light within them, boundlessly deep, as though his pupils were spinning about. "You are here." Hua Taishu's voice rang out in Qin Wentian's mind, causing Qin Wenyan to start. Right now, his control over illusions has already touched upon the Tao. Even heavenly deities wouldn't be able to see through it. Yet Hua Taishu actually saw through it with a single glance? What ability was this? "I'm here," Qin Wenyan replied. Since Hua Taishu could see through it, there was naturally no need for him to hide it from him. Hua Taishu nodded lightly to him. After that, he stepped out and flew towards the direction of the heaven vault. Such a minute detail didn't attract the attention of others. After all, in the supreme ancient immortal realms, not many people knew of the name Hua Taishu. His appearance also didn't cause any commotion. During these days, there were simply too many people. Even heavenly deities would occasionally appear. "Senior brother, Hua Taishu seems to have recognized us?" Jun Mingchen transmitted his voice over. "Nichim," Qin Wentian replied. Jun Mingchen's eyes flashed. "Strange, why do I feel that he is becoming more and more heaven-defying?" Heavenly deities might know that they were in disguise, but it was impossible for them to see through their true identities with a single glance. Yet Hua Taishu could do it. Could it be that his eyes could see through samsara with a single glance? The Tao of disguise was simply not worth a mention in his eyes? "Let's enter the heaven vault as well." Qin Wentian spoke. Jun Mingchen and Chi Yu nodded. After that, there would still be more people arriving. Many experts from the hegemonic powers have yet to arrive. For example, Little Rascal and the others from the Demon God Mountain have yet to arrive. Qin Wenyan and the others flew towards the direction of the heaven vault. At this moment, a figure could be seen flying over from afar. This figure looked very ordinary and was clad in simple robes. He had a sword strapped to his back, and with every step he took, the waves beneath his feet would stop churning, becoming incomparably calm. Qin Wenyan glanced at that person. This person gave him an unfathomable feeling. He might be a heavenly deity. However, he was too ordinary, so ordinary that no one noticed his existence. Otherwise, if someone were to see him, they might be able to recognize him. After all, he was an extremely famous character in the Xian region. Hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Qin Wenyan silently mused. This time, it was unknown how many major characters wanted to enter the heaven vault. Heaven's son Qin Dangtian of the Qin clan reverenced 7 abstinences from the Pure Land of Bliss, Yu Changkong, Hua Taishu, Qin Zheng and the others. He was acquainted with these people, but there were even more major characters he didn't know of. The commotion this time would far surpass that of the legendary place of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. After all, back then when the legendary place of the Tiandao Sacred Academy was opened, only the various hegemonic powers participated and only world overlords could enter. However, the heaven vault had no restrictions. As long as you wanted to enter, heavenly deities, world overlords, and experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms would all be present. Qin Wenyan and the other two walked towards the point where the sea and the sky connected. The waves churned and churned as a vertical eye appeared in the sky. This was the entrance to the heaven vault. Qin Wenyan and the others arrived at the bottom. Their hearts trembled as they walked towards the vertical eye. It felt like the vertical eye was a true crack in the sky. Heaven vault, the place where Grandpa died. Qin Wentian's expression was solemn as he continued walking forward. Their figures seemed extremely tiny and insignificant in front of the spatial crack in the sky, like a drop of water in the vast ocean. Finally, Qin Wenyan and the other two stepped into the spatial crack as their bodies vanished from the horizon. When Qin Wenyan and the others reappeared, they were already in another world. Before them, there was no longer the scene where the sea and sky connected. There wasn't even a single drop of water. This place was like a desolate world, a broken world, like an ancient ruin. In this ruin, there were many figures here. That ordinary-looking young man with the ancient sword on his back was also in front of them. Naturally, Hua Taishu was there as well. Other than them, there were also many experts who entered the heaven vault earlier. Because the path ahead wasn't so easy to traverse. Qin Wenyan turned his gaze ahead only to see an extremely shocking scene. Numerous towering stone pillars could be seen here. They seemed to originate from an ancient world. There were runic inscriptions on the stone pillars, and they exuded an ancient aura. What was even more shocking was that at the peak of each stone pillar, a figure could be seen standing there. These figures were like eternal war gods from the primordial era, standing there, yet they also resembled stone statues. Their armor was stained with white dust. If it wasn't for the fact that a figure could be seen moving, everyone would have thought that these were just statues. Qin Wenyan discovered that if he wanted to continue forward, he had to pass through these towering stone pillars. There were no other paths for him to take a detour. At this moment, a world overlord walked forward. His expression was heavy as the energy of his heaven heart mandate revolved around him. As he stepped out, a powerful aura enveloped this entire space. At this moment, in front of the ancient pathway he wanted to pass, the statue on the towering stone pillar suddenly moved. The dust on its body fell off as the dust from the divine weapon in his hand drifted into the air, revealing the true appearance of the divine weapon. It was an ancient halberd that gleamed with a black light, exuding a fearsome devil might. Rumbling sounds rang out as the dust on the statue unceasingly fell off. The black devil armor he wore also radiated a black light. That statue was like a devil god. Only to see the devil halberd in its hands piercing towards the ancient path below. A terrifying devil might manifested in the air as a gigantic ancient halberd appeared, piercing down from the sky, wanting to pierce through the heavens and earth. The world overlord on the ancient path below inclined his head. He only saw a heaven-destroying devil halberd flying over. This devil halberd was over 10,000 meters long, and it had the force of a thunderbolt as it slashed down. That world overlord had a look of terror on his face. He felt that the space around him was being sealed. When that might bore down on him, there was simply no place for him to hide. He released his powerful heaven heart mandate, wanting to resist. However, that gigantic devil halberd was like a hot knife cutting through butter, destroying everything in its path. A thunderous boom rang out, causing the entire space to tremble. The devil halberd pierced into the ground, but the body of that world overlord was already shattered into pieces. Dust flew everywhere as the entire space around him trembled unstably. The 10,000-meter devil halberd flew back, landing in the hands of that statue once again. It was like a heavenly deity standing there. A single strike to break through all techniques. Its strength reached the extreme, tyrannical and invincible, unstoppable. Qin Wenyan's eyes flashed with a strange light when he saw this scene. Although these stone statues were very powerful, they weren't at the level of world overlords. Clearly, it was impossible for them to block a heavenly deity. However, if ordinary world overlords wanted to enter the heaven vault, it would be impossible for them to come into contact with the secrets of the heaven vault. He was thinking if the closer one got to the secrets of the heaven vault, the stronger one's strength would be. Back then, his grandfather Qin Tiangang had entered a place where his strength couldn't reach. That was why he ended up in the divine fall heaven vault. At this moment, the silhouette with the ancient sword on his back walked forward. His footsteps were very slow, and when he moved forward, a similarly terrifying statue rushed over. A terrifying power seemed to be about to land on his body, but at that moment, everything around him seemed to have stopped. However, his movements didn't stop. He casually walked forward, passing through the region blocked by the stone pillars and statues. "Who is he?" someone asked in shock. The eyes of an expert from the heavenly deity mountain flashed. After that, his eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. "It's him, he has also come here, attracted by the heaven vault. He is Jian Junlai." A voice rang out, causing the crowd to be in an uproar. This was especially so for those from the mystic region. Their hearts were filled with shock. That ordinary-looking man was actually Jian Junlai, the #1 swordsman under the heavens in the mystic region, the sword monarch, Jian Junlai. Ooh! Many people drew in a deep breath. What kind of magical power did the heaven vault have exactly? Why would so many heavenly deities come here? At this moment, Hua Taishu continued forward. Similarly, he encountered a tribulation. Hua Taishu glanced at the statues and in an instant, the light of samsara flashed, causing the statues to tremble unceasingly. How can an insignificant speck of dust obstruct my path? Hua Taishu calmly spoke. He continued forward and the statues directly disintegrated, turning into dust. His silhouette directly walked past them. After he walked past them, the statues reformed once more, as though they had an undying body. Who is that? Someone exclaimed in shock. I don't know him, but I feel that he is very powerful. Everyone sighed in their hearts. Seems like there were simply too many experts who came here today. There were even some hidden experts who came to the heaven vault. More and more people walked past them. There were also some world overlords who weren't strong enough who were blocked. Let's go over. Qin Wendian spoke in a low voice. Jun Mingchen and Qi Yu both nodded. The three of them continued forward, walking towards the same ancient path. The statues on the towering stone pillars ahead suddenly moved as a fearsome might enveloped Qin Wendian and the others. Energy gushed forth from Qin Wentian's body, but at this moment he suddenly furrowed his brows. After which, a strange light flashed in his eyes. In his sea of consciousness, the tiny astral being that had been dormant for so many years suddenly radiated a faint radiance. This radiance was so bright that it seemed to be on the verge of bursting out. In that instant, the terrifying statue that was descending from the skies suddenly halted and actually retreated back to its original location. This strange scene caused those who were watching from behind to be stunned. What was going on? It seemed that those three figures hadn't clashed with the statues yet. Their attacks hadn't even started. Why did the statues retreat on their own? Chapter 1878. A strange look appeared on Qin Wentian's face. But a moment later, the tiny astral being fell silent again, no longer emitting any aura. Rumbling sounds rang out as the statue on the stone pillar moved again. It was like a heavenly deity pressing down on Qin Wendian. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wentian's eyes narrowed. The aura radiating from the tiny astral being was actually able to cause the statue to return to its original position? Was it because the tiny astral being was a supreme treasure? Or was it because the tiny astral being had a connection with the heaven vault? This caused Qin Wentian's interest in the heaven vault to grow even more intense. His grandfather died here. The tiny astral being was acting strangely here. Was there a connection between all of these? He didn't have time to think too much. In the air, that divinity-like statue descended from the sky. He wielded a gigantic axe in his hands that could split the heavens and earth apart. That gigantic axe cleaved downwards. Even space itself seemed to be on the verge of being torn apart. Qin Wendian, who stood on the ancient pathway, felt extremely tiny and insignificant. He could feel a powerful pressure enveloping him. His entire person seemed to be enveloped by the will of the gigantic axe. A terrifying fissure appeared in the sky, wanting to cleave his body into two. Qin Wendian had a feeling that the space he was in was about to be torn apart by the giant axe. He had nowhere to escape to. Behind him, a bright light flashed. Above Qin Wentian's head, numerous ancient characters manifested, revolving around him, transforming into a spatial light screen that resembled a diagram of the Great Tao. In an instant, that incomparably terrifying attack was completely absorbed into the spatial light screen. After that, it dissipated into nothingness. It was like no matter how terrifying the attack was, it had no way to touch his body. Qin Wendian stepped out, exuding an incomparably carefree aura. He directly stepped onto the ancient pathway and passed through the region of stone pillars. Another supreme existence. The spectators at the back felt somewhat numb. The sword monarch Jian Junlai, the mysterious and powerful Hua Taishu. Now, another supreme existence appeared, easily blocking that tyrannical attack. It felt as though his attack was nearing the level of heavenly Tao energy. However, no one knew who this person was. After Qin Wenyan walked past, Jun Mingchen was eager to try. He followed Qin Wentian's footsteps and walked past the stone pillar. Naturally, the attacks he faced were the same. Many years ago during the convention of Myriad Realms, Jun Mingchen had already comprehended an extraordinary world heart and became a transcendent-level world overlord. Now that so many years have passed and he was cultivating in the ancient battlefield of ancient Azure Mystic, with a heavenly deity guiding him as a master, his strength could no longer be compared to the past. His senior brother easily passed the test. Hua Taishu did the same as well, destroying a powerful statue with a single glance. He naturally couldn't lose too much face. Jun Mingchen stepped out, and in an instant, it was as though all the energy in the world was under his control. Instantly, Jun Mingchen was like an emperor of the mortal world. He stretched out his hands, and beneath his palms, there seemed to be a world of its own. After which, he clenched his fists, and instantly, terrifying beams of light penetrated through his body, shooting up into the clouds. His entire person's aura had reached an inconceivable level. What ability is this? The eyes of everyone flashed as they stared at Jun Mingchen. This man was like the reincarnation of a heavenly deity. The light radiating from him was so dazzling that it was blinding. He lifted his fist and with a roar of anger, he punched out towards the gigantic axe that was flying towards him. His fist light penetrated through the heavens and earth, like a hot knife cutting through butter, destroying everything. The gigantic axe was destroyed, and the gigantic statue directly exploded into pieces. Not bad. Jun Mingchen smiled. His cultivation method was different from many people. With a step out, he also walked out of this region. Finally, Chiyu followed after him. He drew in a deep breath, after inheriting the battle Saint Bone he cultivated for many years. Although he sparred with others in the ancient battlefield, this was the first time he came out for a true battle. From Chiyu, a world-shaking battle intent gushed forth. Although his body didn't grow larger, the aura he exuded wasn't any weaker compared to the newly formed statue. An extremely strong battle intent seemed to be about to burst out of his body. The experts behind him could all feel the violent power accumulated in his body. Finally, Chiyu let out a thunderous roar, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Within his roar, numerous runes appeared. These runes contained the battle intent of the heavens and earth, capable of destroying the heavens. When they slammed into the gigantic axe, the runes directly shattered it. After that, they slammed into the gigantic body of the statue, penetrating through it. Battle runes! The people behind watched as Chiyu left. A look of contemplation could be seen in their eyes. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, there were many people who infused their Tao energy into runes to attack. Would there be any special meaning behind the runes of battle? After that, the experts all tried to pass the trial. However, it seemed that only extremely powerful world overlords would be able to do so. 4 ordinary world overlords who came to the Heaven Vault, they had no way to pass the first trial. In fact, there were even quite a few world overlords who died here. The Heaven Vault didn't seem to be so easy to barge into. If one didn't know their own strength, there was a high possibility that they would die. Deities falling wasn't a lie. This was true history. Qin Wenyan and his group walked past the stone pillar region and continued forward. Very soon, they saw many people ahead of them. All of them were standing there, staring ahead, not daring to advance recklessly. They chose to halt their steps. However, when Qin Wenyan saw the scene ahead, his heart involuntarily trembled. Within the Heaven Vault, it was truly a different world with each step. Before this, it was like a desolate land with 10 heaven-reaching stone pillars blocking the way. But after they stepped past it, what appeared before their eyes was actually a sea. A sea of blood. This was a sea of blood, so bright that it was dazzling to the eyes. On the shore, there was a bone boat that floated there. Qin Wenyan saw a stone monument erected at the edge of the blood sea. This stone monument was the color of blood, and there were words engraved on it. Blood as the sea, bones as the boat. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Using blood as the sea, the blood of a person transformed into a sea of blood. Using bones as the boat floating in the sea of blood was formed from bones. What sort of place was the heaven vault exactly? Using blood as the sea, what did it mean? Everyone, why are you all not continuing forward? Qin Wendian came over and asked a person beside him. That person glanced at Qin Wendian. He came here much earlier than Qin Wendian and also wanted to cross the sea. However, when he saw the scene a few days ago, he hesitated. This blood sea will melt the moment you touch it. If you sink into it, your bloodline will become a part of the blood sea. That expert calmly spoke. Qin Wendian's expression trembled as he asked, "Has such a situation happened before?" That person slowly nodded. His expression was heavy. There was a hegemonic level world overlord who entered the blood sea and rode on a bone boat. It was unknown what he encountered, but the bone boat capsized and he was buried in the blood sea, directly transforming into blood. Not even his bones remained. Qin Wendian's heart pounded violently. The blood sea was actually so terrifying. If a heavenly deity rode on a bone boat and capsized, what would happen to him? What about heavenly deities? What would happen to them? Qin Wendian asked. That person was actually willing to tell Qin Wendian. He continued, even heavenly deities would be suppressed after entering the blood sea. Before this, there was already a heavenly deity who tried, but he didn't manage to travel too far and returned halfway. Someone asked him what he experienced, but he didn't say anything. After a period of time, he turned and left this place, no longer wanting to take the risk. Jun Mingchen and Chi Yu also walked over. From afar, they could hear the conversation between Qin Wendian and that person. Their hearts trembled. Jun Mingchen spoke. In that case, we just entered the heaven vault and we already encountered an unknown power that could threaten heavenly deities? Even heavenly deities retreated. How many people would dare to enter the blood sea? Heavenly deities have already cultivated to that level and have towering authority. They naturally wouldn't be willing to take the risk. That person laughed. Qin Wendian understood that this was the truth. Since one has already entered the deity realm, why would there be a need to take the risk? If this blood sea truly had the power to kill heavenly deities, there would surely be many heavenly deities who chose to retreat. Dangdun, have you made your decision? At this moment, Qin Zheng also came over. He spoke to Qin Dangtan, who was beside him. "Emchum, I'm willing to continue roaming the world." Qin Dangtian nodded. So what if the blood sea existed? Back then, someone from the Qin clan had done this before. How could he retreat? After all, he was the heaven's son. Alright, since this is the case, go ahead. Father will return to the clan and wait for your good news. Qin Zheng spoke. He didn't wish to enter the blood sea. To him, his cultivation base has already reached an extremely high level and he was also the Qin clan leader. There was no need for him to take the risk of entering the heaven vault. Back then when Qin Tiangang and his wife died in the heaven vault, according to what his father said, their cultivation bases weren't comparable to his current level. But since his son wanted to enter, he still supported him. There are only places I don't wish to go. There's no place I can't go. Qin Dangtian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. He stared at Goddess Nikhang beside him as a hint of gentleness flashed in his eyes. Nikhang, the blood sea is extremely dangerous. Don't head there and wait for me to return. How about it? Goddess Nikhang shook her head lightly. The heaven vault was the place where her father died. She wanted to see what secrets this heaven vault had exactly. Seeing Goddess Nikhang shaking her head, Qin Dangun stared at her beautiful eyes and nodded. Might as well. Let's head there together then. If there's any danger, I will send you back. As he spoke, he stepped out and boarded a bone boat as he flew forward. The bone boat entered the blood sea. The two of them traveled side by side, resembling an immortal couple. Many people weren't in a hurry. They wanted to see what would happen to Qin Dangtian and Goddess Nikhang. But at this moment, sword intent gushed forth. The ancient sword on Jian Junlai's back was unsheathed and landed on a lone boat. He stepped out and stood on the ancient sword. As for the ancient sword, it was on the bone boat. In the blood sea, only bone boats could travel forward. Since Qin Dang Tian can enter, why can't I? Many supreme characters of the supreme ancient immortal realms no longer hesitated when they saw someone taking the lead. They all stepped out and steered the bone boats. Qin Wendian glanced at Qin Zheng, who was at the edge of the blood sea. He only heard Qin Zheng mumbling in a low voice, "Back then, I didn't do what you all did. But my son will definitely accomplish it for me." After speaking, he turned and actually left, heading towards the exit. Sometimes, he was filled with admiration for his clan brother. Many years after his parents died, the heaven vault opened again. He definitely had to enter the heaven vault to take a look. "Let's go." Qin Wenyan heard Qin Zheng's words. Who was the you all he was referring to? His grandfather and grandmother came before. Where was his father? Did they enter the heaven vault before? Chapter 1879. The Blood Sea, White Bone Boats. Each bone boat could only carry a single person. Qin Wenyan didn't hesitate and boarded one of the bone boats. Jun Mingchen and Qi Yu had resolute looks on their faces. They stood on his left and right respectively as they boarded the bone boats and entered the Blood Sea. Using blood as the sea, white bones as the boats. Qin Wenyan was thinking that this Blood Sea was formed from the blood of a supreme expert. Were these bone boats created from his bones? If this was the case, what sort of place was this heaven vault? An oppressive aura bore down on him. Qin Wenyan stood on the white bone boat, gradually moving deeper into the depths of the Blood Sea. On the shore of the Blood Sea, there were many experts who saw many people attempting the white bone boat. All of them stepped forward, stepping on the white bone boat. Heaven's son Qin Dang Tian, Reverend Seven Abstinence, Lin Shao and the others, which of them weren't heaven's chosen? They were all willing to take the risk. As for themselves, they were originally inferior to them. Why did they not dare to take the risk? Even the mystical maiden of the Nine Heavens mystical palace, the #1 beauty of the heaven region, goddess Nikhang, also stepped on the bone boats. What reason did they have to cower? Upon thinking of this, more and more people stepped forward, taking the risk. Naturally, there were still many people who were hesitating. After all, there were too many people here. The experts from the 8 regions all rushed here to the legendary heaven vault. At this moment, among the crowd, a white-robed figure stepped forward. His aura was boundlessly carefree and he was extraordinarily handsome. Everywhere he passed by, the people in the surroundings would be intimidated by his aura and involuntarily retreated. This caused them to feel a sense of disbelief. How could this be possible? They were world overlords and even hegemonic-level experts. Yet, they actually retreated for no reason when they saw this white-robed young man. This caused them to feel a chill in their hearts as they stared at the white-robed young man. How strong was he exactly? The white-robed figure walked to the shore of the Blood Sea and stared at the stone monument. Using blood as the sea, using bones as the boat. He murmured in a low voice as a faint smile appeared on his face. Interesting. With that, he took a step forward, and a shocking scene appeared. He did not step onto the bone boat, but rather, stepped directly onto the sea of blood. In fact, with a wave of his hand, a tempest of the sea of blood appeared. He reached out and touched the sea of blood, as if he were sensing the power of the sea of blood. What's the point? He seemed to know something as he continued to walk on the Blood Sea. This Blood Sea that could shake even heavenly deities was no different from an ordinary sea to him. He walked on the Blood Sea as his white-robed figure gradually disappeared into the distance. The experts at the shores of the Blood Sea all had looks of shock on their faces as great waves rose in their hearts. At the shores of the Blood Sea, there were still heavenly deities. Even for them, a deep sense of reverence appeared in their hearts. There was actually such a character in the supreme ancient immortal realms? What was even more terrifying was that no one knew of him. Qin Wenyan and many others were currently traversing the sea. How fast were world overlords? Heavenly deities were even faster, they could traverse boundless space with a single step. However, in the Blood Sea, no one dared to move recklessly. All of them obediently sat on the white bone boats. At this moment, the people in the Blood Sea all saw a white-robed figure walking past them confidently. waves of shock rose in their hearts. How could this be possible? There was actually someone who could traverse the blood sea so easily. Also, they felt that the power of this blood sea was able to engulf all living beings. Qin Wenyan also saw it. At the instant he saw the white-robed young man, his eyes gleamed with a dazzling light. He opened his mouth wanting to speak, but he discovered that the white-robed young man also saw him. Although the white-robed young man changed his appearance, the white-robed young man seemed to be able to see through him. The white-robed young man smiled and nodded to him before walking past him. This person is so terrifying. Jun Mingchen's heart trembled violently. Senior brother, you are acquainted with him? I've met this senior before. Since he is here, it's very normal for him to be able to do this. The heaven vault can obstruct heavenly deities, but it can't obstruct him. Qin Wendian replied. Jun Mingchen and Qi Yu, who were at the side, froze, both stunned by Qin Wentian's words. Since Qin Wendian said this, he clearly knew how powerful the white-robed young man was. Senior brother, where did you meet him before? Jun Mingchen was filled with curiosity as he asked. Tiandao's Sacred Academy, the world of reincarnation. Mingchen, don't reveal this matter to others. Qin Wenyan transmitted his voice to Jun Mingchen. After that, he didn't say anything more. Since this senior is in seclusion, it's best not to say too much about him. Right. Jun Mingchen nodded. He knew that his senior brother might have encountered a miraculous encounter and met a transcendent character. Qin Dangtian, who was in front of Qin Wenyan, also saw the white-robed young man. His gaze froze as a look of shock appeared on his face. He then called out, Sir, please wait a moment. The white-robed young man turned his head and casually glanced at him. Sir, how did you do it? Qin Dangtian asked. The white-robed young man didn't reply. He turned and continued on his way. Qin Dangtian's expression froze. He was actually disregarded. But when he saw the white-robed young man stepping on the blood sea, he originally wanted to say something, but ultimately he couldn't say anything. The strength of this young man might have far surpassed his imagination. It was best not to antagonize him. Seems like there were still some unknown powerful existences in the supreme ancient immortal realms. He still had to work hard in his cultivation and hoped that he would be able to make a breakthrough during this trip to the Heaven Vault. As they continued forward, the blood sea grew darker. Above their heads, a blood-colored light enveloped them, forming a blood cavern. The suppressive aura grew more and more terrifying. In front of them, the blood sea churned, as though waves of blood had appeared. In the distance, the white-robed figure directly passed through the storm. To him, this blood sea didn't seem to be an obstacle at all. However, the experts on the white bone boat all felt a sense of danger. Nikhang, don't leave my side no matter what. Qin Dangtian spoke. His expression also turned heavy. As the sound of his voice faded, many ancient characters revolved around Qin Dangtian, transforming into a screen of light that blocked the path ahead, enveloping the bone boat. The blood sea tempest gushed over but was blocked by the light of the ancient characters, unable to corrode the bone boat. The others also encountered the same thing. Qin Wendian stared at the churning blood sea before him. A screen of light appeared around him, creating an absolute space. It was like his entire person had entered a unique space. When the blood sea gushed over, it actually directly engulfed him, but it wasn't able to injure him at all. A world appeared around Jun Mingchen, revolving around him. Qi Yu's battle intent radiated from him as a battle rune appeared before him. All the experts unleashed their respective innate techniques as they continued to cross the blood sea. The storm in front of them became more and more terrifying. The surging blood sea was like a huge wave crashing over, bringing with it an astonishing power. The resistance of the experts in front of them was corroded by the blood sea and gradually turned blood red. Their expressions gradually changed. Careful. Qin Wentian's expression grew increasingly heavy. Nikhang, the blood sea ahead has the power to corrode everything. Let me send you back. Qin Dangtian spoke to Goddess Nikhang. The halo of light around him, as well as the might of his Tao art, was actually corroded. No need. Goddess Nikhang had a resolute look on her face. Blood as the sea, white bones as the boat. There would definitely be a way to cross this. Only to see that at this moment, within the blood sea, streams of black-colored energy suddenly appeared, shooting towards the light barrier that the experts were using to resist. They directly penetrated through it, even Qin Dongtian's ancient words were penetrated. After that, the blood sea slowly seeped into the white bone boat. At the front, even the light barrier around Reverend Qi Jie was penetrated. His position was closer to the front and gradually, the blood sea engulfed the white bone boat. The white bone boat started to sink, causing the hearts of the people behind to sink as well. Reverend Qi Jie has already verified his Tao. What would he choose? At this moment, Reverend Qi Jie pressed his palms together and chanted a Buddhist chant. After that, he abandoned the white bone boat and stepped into the blood sea bit by bit. When his legs came into contact with the blood sea, they gradually turned illusory and vanished bit by bit. However, his body was still sinking deeper and deeper. For every inch he sank, his body seemed to be a part of the blood sea. The experts behind all had horrified expressions on their faces. Reverend Qi Jie was a heavenly deity. Even he couldn't block the corrosion of the blood sea. Didn't this mean that everyone here would be buried in the blood sea? Reverend Qi Jie's entire body sank into the blood sea, vanishing from sight. Within the blood sea, a beam of Buddhist light appeared, resembling a relic of the Buddhist path. Reverend Qi Jie, is he abandoning his body to seek the Tao? Someone trembled. At the back, there were people who wavered and turned back. They didn't want to take the risk. There was basically no way to cross this blood sea. Using white bones as a boat, if one wanted to cross the blood sea, they would definitely turn into white bones. Nikhang. Qin Dangtian stared at Goddess Nikhang only to see that Goddess Nichang's expression was as calm as water. There was no fear in her beautiful eyes. She walked forward and actually directly exited the white bone boat, entering the blood sea. Nikhang. Qin Dangtian called out loudly. However, Goddess Nikhang ignored him. Her body sank into the blood sea as her beautiful body gradually dissipated. The hearts of the people behind trembled even more violently when they saw this scene. The number one beauty of the heaven region, Goddess Nikhang, was going to die here? Wait, something's wrong. Qin Dongtian's eyes flashed. The Pure Land of Bliss was one of the hegemonic powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms. They had many secret manuals of the Buddhist path and there might be records regarding the Heaven Vault. Nichang's father had entered the Heaven Vault before and might know some secrets about it. Entering the blood sea might not necessarily mean death. When he thought of this, Qin Dongtian's gaze was incomparably resolute. He abandoned the ancient word halo and stepped out, entering the blood sea. Even Nikhang could do this. What was there for him, Qin Dongtian, to fear? Have they all gone mad? The experts behind all felt disbelief when they saw this. These people had all gone mad. Qin Wenyin naturally saw everything that happened before him. Reverend Seven Abstinences, Heaven's Son Qin Dangtian, Goddess Nikhang. Which one of them wasn't a supreme character that exuded magnificence and magnificence? Yet, all of them actually chose to abandon the white bone boat and directly stepped into the blood sea. Was this a path of death? If it was a path of death, how did people in the past pass it? Although the Heaven Vault was dangerous and was known as the place where deities died, according to the records in the Sacred Academy's Heavenly Tao Library, as long as one was a little more cautious, the chances of survival would still be very high. This blood sea wasn't truly a path of death. When he thought of this, he spoke, "Uncle Yu, Mengchen, you guys make your own choice." After speaking, he gave up on resisting. The white bone boat sank downwards as his body sank into the blood sea as well. Chapter 1880. Qin Wentian's body sank into the blood sea. He could feel his body gradually disappearing, transforming into nothingness. When he completely entered the blood sea, he could sense that he no longer had a body of flesh and blood. There was only a soul of nothingness left. The blood sea can corrode one's body, but is there still a soul? Qin Wendian asked himself. As long as one's soul remained, one's body could be regenerated. As long as one's soul didn't die, they would be indestructible. The white bone boat continued sinking into the depths of the Blood Sea. Qin Wentian's soul was sinking as well. At the same time, he floated forward. Even if only his soul remained, he wanted to traverse this Blood Sea. The Heaven Vault was able to attract heavenly deities to take the risk. There was definitely a secret behind it. But right now, he had yet to come into contact with anything. Ahead, in the Blood Sea, a black-colored energy current drifted towards Qin Wentian's soul of nothingness. This was none other than the energy current that corroded the defenses of the experts in the Blood Sea earlier. This black-colored energy current actually transformed into a humanoid figure. Its eyes were pitch black, incomparably evil, like an evil spirit. After that, not only did Qin Wentian see a single evil spirit, there were many of them. These black-colored energy currents transformed into evil spirits that directly lunged towards his soul. Qin Wentian's soul radiated light. It was the light from his astral soul, wanting to block the invasion of the evil spirits. However, when those evil spirits lunged over, they instantly engulfed the astral light. Countless black-colored evil spirits lunged towards his soul. At this moment, Qin Wentian only felt his soul being devoured bit by bit. He suddenly felt a sense of terror. The terror these evil spirits gave him caused his consciousness to dissipate. Am I dead? Qin Wentian felt his consciousness gradually turning blurry. After that, he seemed to have returned to ancient azure mystic, floating in the airspace above it. He saw he saw Qingqing, he saw Yi Qinyu, he saw Yu Huang and Bai Qing. All of them were waiting for him. Day after day, year after year, yet he still hadn't returned. It was as though he could see Qinger cutting off all her white hair, her heart like dead ashes. She could also see Qingqing being heartbroken. His will also drifted to the demon god mountain. He saw his grandfather and Lei. When they learned of his death, Lei cried. His grandfather inclined his head to the sky and sighed. His uncle had a look of sorrow on his face. Everything has ended. There was no one to avenge the death of his parents. There was no one to take care of his wife, and she had to stay in this world to suffer. Such terror caused him to despair, causing his will to grow weaker and weaker. It was like he didn't want to continue watching. Since I can see all of this, it means that my consciousness still exists in this world. I am not completely dead. Qin Wentian's dissipating will suddenly returned, pulling him back into the Blood Sea. The countless evil spirits continued to corrode his soul, but at this moment, Qin Wentian's will was incomparably resolute. His soul floated forward, allowing the evil spirits to corrode it as they pleased. These evil spirits formed from the black chi currents couldn't truly destroy his soul and wipe away his will. It was like a form of consciousness. It was ethereal and filled with fear. If he lost his consciousness in fear, most probably his soul would truly dissipate here, sinking into this Blood Sea for all eternity. Qin Wentian's soul continued moving forward, following the Blood Sea. The evil spirits kept on invading him. With his first experience, he no longer wavered and continued forward with incomparable determination. Not only for Qin Wentian, everyone who entered the Blood Sea would be corroded by the evil spirits. Goddess Nikang was surrounded by countless evil spirits, but she still radiated a holy light. She also had an ethereal body, but tears could be seen at the corners of her eyes. But even so, she still continued moving forward. In the Blood Sea, Qin Wentian didn't know how many people had entered. He couldn't be bothered with them anymore. The him now could only rely on his powerful will to resist everything. He believed that there would be a day where he would be able to exit this Blood Sea. However, Qin Wentian's firm conviction wavered after a period of time. As time flowed by, he felt that he had spent a few centuries in the Blood Sea. However, the Blood Sea seemed boundless, as though he had no way to exit it. He was unable to reach the other shore. The evil spirits formed from the black air currents never stopped invading him, bringing with them all sorts of negative emotions. 1 day, 2 days, 1 year, 2 years. Qin Wentian felt that he had been walking in the Blood Sea for far too long. However, there was still no end to the Blood Sea. He kept telling himself that he had to hold fast to his original heart and not waver. There would be a day where he would be able to exit this Blood Sea. Maybe the day would be tomorrow. Hope rose time and time again, But he was disappointed again and again until it turned into despair. The blood sea was still the same blood sea as before. It was like he had never moved before, like he had always been wandering at his original location. However, tens of years seemed to have passed. He continued walking forward like this, walking for tens of years. Only he knew how much despair he felt. In addition, there was also fear constantly invading his heart. Fear and despair were sufficient to destroy a person completely. He involuntarily thought of Qing-er and Qing-Qing. Every time he felt that he couldn't persevere anymore, he would think of them. He could still continue on. However, despair was eternal. It was able to destroy his conviction bit by bit. It was unknown how many years had passed, but he was still walking in the blood sea. If this was the case, even if there would be a day where he could exit the blood sea, it would already be countless years later. Qin Wenyan was tired. He felt that he was truly exhausted. He wanted to give up and allow himself to sink into despair. His consciousness dissipated bit by bit, as though he had no way to persevere any longer. But at this moment he shivered as he felt a chill in his soul. In an instant, all the illusions vanished. He broke free from the despair. His body was currently being invaded by many evil spirits. Those tens of years of despair, it was as though they were nothing but a dream. Evil spirits, not only could they bring about fear, they could also bring about despair. These evil spirits in the blood sea contained all sorts of negative emotions. They only had a single purpose, to cause people to crumble. Too terrifying. Qin Wenyan felt a chill in his heart. Unknowingly, they could cause you to sink so deep that you couldn't extricate yourself. You thought that you had just walked out of the illusion and entered reality, only to discover that reality was still an illusion. Qin Wenyan continued forward. He saw a beautiful figure ahead of him. That was Goddess Nichang's soul. She was currently struggling and seemed to have fallen into despair and terror. Qin Wenyan's soul floated forward. A strand of his soul energy entered Goddess Nichang's world of despair. Their souls were connected. "It's you?" Goddess Nichang's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wenyan. "It's me." The evil spirits in the blood sea have the ability to bewitch the hearts of people. They can create all sorts of negative emotions, causing people to feel despair and fear. Qin Wenyan spoke. "Don't be moved by them." Goddess Nichang's beautiful eyes flashed. After that, she seemed to break free from the despair. Her soul trembled and her beautiful eyes turned to Qin Wenyan. "Thank you. Let's leave together." Qin Wenyan nodded. The two of them continued forward, continuing to walk through the blood sea. However, they still couldn't exit. During the process of walking, they encountered many dangers and kept on resisting the invasion of the evil spirits. "Will we be trapped here forever?" Goddess Nichang's beautiful eyes stared at Qin Wenyan. "We won't." Qin Wenyan shook his head. At this moment, Goddess Nichang stretched out her slender hand and held Qin Wenyan's hand. "I'm tired. I want to give up." Qin Wenyan's hand trembled. He stared at Goddess Nichang. "Even if this blood sea is truly boundless, we will still exit it." "I'm really tired. Can you stay here and accompany me?" Goddess Nichang moved closer to Qin Wenyan, wanting to lean against Qin Wenyan. Upon seeing this scene, Qin Wenyan closed his eyes. He sighed. "When will I be able to experience reality exactly? Could it be that these evil spirits are able to bring me into an illusory realm endlessly?" When he opened his eyes, Goddess Nichang was no longer here. Everything was fake. Before this, he felt despair and fear. What was this? Was this the desire and greed in his heart? Goddess Nichang was the #1 beauty in the heaven region and had a period of interaction with Qin Wenyan before. It was impossible for Qin Wenyan to not have any desire and greed in his heart. There would always be desires and greed in the heart of everyone. It was just a matter of how strong they were. Qin Wenyan didn't have any thoughts about Goddess Nichang, but the desire in his heart was actually dug out by the evil spirits. Using blood as the sea, using bones as the boat. Qin Wenyan mumbled. He no longer wanted to continue forward. With these countless evil spirits around, he couldn't even differentiate between reality and illusion. Since this is the case, I will use my soul as the boat and my will as the sea. The blood sea won't be able to block my path forward. Qin Wendian mumbled. His soul transformed into a small boat. His powerful will floated forward in the blood sea. His powerful will seemed to fuse together with the blood sea, protecting the soul boat as it moved forward. No matter how the evil spirits tried to corrode it, it was unaffected. He didn't use the blood sea to move forward, he only relied on his own will to move forward. After a very, very long time, Qin Wendian felt a gentle breeze blowing over. He opened his eyes, only to feel incomparably comfortable. He came to the shore of a seashore and continued forward. His soul was in perfect condition, as well as his physical body. It was as though everything he experienced earlier was nothing but an illusion. However, the sea of blood behind him was so real. But no matter what, he managed to reach the other shore. On the other shore, there were only a few people. Compared to the people on the other side of the blood sea, there was an intense contrast. Among these few people, there was the sword monarch Jian Junlai, Reverend 7 Abstinences, and Hua Taishu. Hua Taishu actually managed to reach the other shore with such speed. He cultivated the cycle of reincarnation. Those illusions couldn't obstruct him at all. Using blood as the sea, using bones as the boat. All the evil spirits are evil. This heaven vault, could it be? Reverend 7 Abstinences mumbled, thinking of a possibility. His calm heart involuntarily trembled. Chapter 1881. Jian Junlai stared at 7 Abstinences and asked, "What did you think of?" There are many evil spirits in the blood sea, causing despair, anger, fear, desire, and other negative emotions in humans. Isn't all of this the chaotic thoughts of humans? 7 Abstinences softly spoke. Blood as the sea, bones as the boat, thoughts as the evil spirits. Good imagination. Jian Junlai's eyes flashed. If this was true, what sort of existence would that person be? It was most probably unimaginable. At this moment, more and more figures appeared on the other shore. There were heavenly deities and world overlords. For some supreme world overlords, their wills might not necessarily be weaker than heavenly deities. Qin Dangtian appeared, Goddess Nikhang who appeared in Qin Wentian's imagination also appeared. Both of them walked out of the blood sea. What's ahead? Many people stared at the blood sea. There was an ancient pathway there and there were already people heading out, continuing to explore. Qin Wendian didn't move forward immediately. He waited here and after a period of time, Jun Mingchen and Qi Yu also walked out of the blood sea. Only then did Qin Wendian set his heart at ease. Mingchen's personality was carefree and flamboyant, but his will was still extremely resolute, able to overcome all negative emotions. His comprehension ability was also extraordinary. As for Qi Yu, after he inherited the Battle Saint Bone, he has already transformed. Right now, he only wanted to restore the glory of the Battle Saint tribe. How dangerous! Jun Mingchen walked out and spoke to Qin Wendian. This blood sea is too dangerous. I thought it was real time and time again, but everything was just an illusion, causing me to be unable to extricate myself. There was actually a supreme beauty who wanted me to be immersed in her beauty forever. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. Who is that supreme beauty? Since it was an illusion, it should be real, right? I don't think I know her. Jun Mingchen shook his head. Qin Wendian stared at him. He didn't know if this was the truth or a lie. Let's go. Qin Wendian spoke. They continued on the ancient path ahead. They have yet to come into contact with the secrets of the heaven vault. As they continued forward, they saw a corpse. That corpse had experienced countless years, yet it still hadn't corroded and was as good as new. However, his internal organs had been pierced through, and there was a huge hole in his body. The corpse was still standing there, incomparably majestic. The blood in his body had long been drained, and there were runes engraved on his bones, just that they were incomplete. This. Qi Yu looked at the skeleton in shock. The heavenly god's corpse. Qin Wendian spoke in a light voice. Most probably, he didn't die because of the heaven vault itself. Instead, he died because of a battle. The Heaven Vault was a secret realm in the supreme ancient immortal realms. It had been opened before, and there would definitely be experts who came here before. It was only normal for battles to erupt here. There are stone tablets. At this moment, Chiyu spoke. Qin Wenyan and Jun Mingchen turned their gazes to the side. There was indeed a stone monument there with the words Heaven Vault engraved on it. Was this the origin of the Heaven Vault? Beside the two words Heaven Vault, there was a row of smaller words. Path to Godhood, Path to Godfall. Godhood, Godfall. Many people stopped here, feeling their hearts pounding. Those who came before didn't proceed forward. Clearly, they were filled with trepidation towards the ancient words on the stone monument. Godfall, even heavenly deities might die here. This was truly an unknown place. The path has already been opened, there's no need to worry. Let's continue forward. At the end of the ancient path, a voice drifted over. This voice seemed to contain a strange magical power, causing people to involuntarily believe in his words. The path has already been opened, there's no need to worry. Does this mean that the danger here has already been resolved? It's him. Qin Wenyan's eyes flashed. It was the mysterious white-robed young man. He resolved the danger on the ancient path and allowed everyone to proceed forward to explore the secrets of the Heaven Vault. Let's go. Qin Wenyan spoke. He trusted that white-robed young man very much. That white-robed young man was a transcendent expert. Since he said that the path has already been opened, it would truly be opened. Staring at Qin Wenyan and the others moving forward, the people behind naturally weren't willing to lag behind. Also, the voice drifted over from the front. Many people thought back to the mysterious figure who crossed the Blood Sea earlier. Maybe he was the one who opened the path. Hence, this ancient path that had obstructed countless experts in the past was easily opened. Those who came here could all proceed forward. Naturally, those who could come here were all extraordinary characters from the supreme ancient immortal realms. Ordinary characters wouldn't be able to reach this place. However, they all knew that this ancient path known as the Path to Godfall would definitely be countless times more dangerous compared to the Blood Sea. Maybe, it was precisely because of the existence of this ancient path that the experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms couldn't explore the Heaven Vault, causing the secrets of the Heaven Vault to be unknown to the world. This time around, the arrival of a mysterious expert might change everything. Everyone felt a sense of yearning in their hearts as they continued forward. On the way, there were many corpses left behind. These corpses didn't rot at all despite the passage of countless years. Also, some of the corpses still exuded an incomplete Dao might that was extremely terrifying. Many of them were the corpses of heavenly deities. Nobody knew how long the Heaven Vault had existed for. But most probably, ever since the Heaven Vault existed, every time it opened, there would be experts who came here to explore it. After countless years, the number of experts who died in the Heaven Vault naturally wouldn't be few. The sky gradually darkened. Day and night merged together. The expressions of the hegemonic powers who stepped on the ancient Heaven Vault path grew increasingly heavy. They could faintly sense that the Heaven Vault path this time around might bring them to an extraordinary place. Finally, the day vanished. The ancient path transformed into a night path. Astral light shone on the ancient path, illuminating everyone's path. Bothump! The sound of heartbeats could be heard. This entire space was actually silent, incomparably quiet, and extremely bizarre. No one spoke, only the sound of heartbeats could be heard. Many people already had no way to control their heartbeats because they discovered that this ancient pathway was no longer in the supreme ancient immortal realms. It was in the starry space instead. This was a path that led to the starry space. Heaven Vault. Many people involuntarily thought of these two words. Heaven Vault, a hole in the sky that led to the heavens. There seemed to be no end to the ancient path. The night sky grew brighter and brighter, more resplendent. Above their heads, numerous resplendent astral rivers appeared. Each and every astral river was incomparably resplendent, boundlessly vast. Above each astral river, there were many constellations. The 9 heavenly layers. The hearts of the crowd pounded violently. This was the first time they were so close to the 9 heavenly layers. It felt like they were just inches away from the 9 heavenly layers. There was no need for them to use their perception to sense the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. They could see the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers with their own eyes. Where is my constellation? Someone sensed the location of his constellation as his heart pounded violently. Boom! A figure soared up into the sky. This figure was none other than the sword monarch, Jian Junlai. His speed was like a beam of startling sword light, extremely fast. The crowd only saw him flying towards a constellation as his body gradually grew smaller and smaller. Although the constellation seemed very close, everyone understood that in reality, it was still very far away. It was just that because the constellation was too large, it felt like it was just inches away. However, they could see that Jian Junlai was already flying towards a constellation. That constellation was in the form of a sword. There were billions of constellations in the 9 heavenly layers, all of them had different forms. The path to godhood. Everyone thought of the introduction on the Heaven Vault monument as their hearts pounded violently. Father. Only to see that Qin Dangtian wasn't in a hurry to fly up. He took out his messaging crystal and transmitted his voice to Qin Zheng. Danga, how is it? Qin Zheng asked. A mysterious expert appeared in the Heaven Vault. He unlocked the seal of the Heaven Vault and now, he has already seen through the secrets of the Heaven Vault. The end of the Heaven Vault is above the 9 heavenly layers and the constellations there are just inches away from us. Qin Dangtian spoke. Father, you should immediately lead the experts of the Qin clan to the Heaven Vault. The first trial won't be able to obstruct the experts of the Qin clan. The second trial is the Blood Sea. It can create many illusions that attack the weaknesses of humans. However, as long as you have no fear and use your powerful will to overcome your weaknesses, you would be able to pass. The third trial is the path to the Heaven Vault. It's also known as the path to godhood and also the path to godfall. But now, it has been opened by a mysterious expert. When Qin Zheng heard his father's voice transmission, even with his state of heart, he couldn't help but feel shocked in his heart. After that, he replied, I will immediately mobilize the experts of the Qin clan to head to the Heaven Vault. After putting down his messaging crystal, Qin Zheng was thinking in his heart. Back then, Qin Tiangang and Qin Yuanfeng, how far did they manage to reach in the Heaven Vault? Not only for Qin Dangtian, the geniuses of the various powers were all informing the experts of their clans and powers. For a period of time, huge waves of commotion rose in the supreme ancient immortal realms. In the 8 regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms, countless major powers received the news. After that, they led the experts of their clans and powers to the Heaven region. Their target was none other than Boundless City, the Heaven Vault. A storm is about to rise in the immortal realms. Many people silently mused. The Heaven Vault was actually connected to the 9 heavenly layers. Now that the secret of the Heaven Vault was unlocked, it was unknown how many experts would come here. Qin Wenyan also took out his messaging crystal and informed his grandfather. However, he had no idea if his grandfather would come or not. Staring at the boundless ancient path, staring at the constellations in the sky, Qin Wenyan was thinking in his heart. His grandfather, Qin Tunggeng, where did he go? Did he die on the Heaven Vault ancient path? However, among the corpses on the ancient path, there weren't any corpses similar to him or his father. If he really met his grandfather, given his current cultivation base, he would definitely be able to sense it. Qin Wenyan turned his head and glanced at the ancient path. Just a single path was able to bring everyone to the 9 heavenly layers. Qin Wenyan was very clear in his heart what this signified. It meant that this ancient path itself was a Tao of space, condensing boundless spatial distances into a single ancient path. To what extent did this usage of space reach? Even Qin Wenyan had no way to know. Chapter 1882. Many figures stared at the ancient path in the sky. Behind them, more and more experts arrived. When they saw the scene before them, their hearts trembled violently. What was even more terrifying was that they had yet to reach the end of the ancient path. It was like this ancient path could truly lead them to the 9 heavenly rivers. This was a path that led directly to the 9 heavenly layers. The creator of this ancient path, how strong was his cultivation base? At this moment, numerous figures soared through the air, rushing towards their constellations. In the supreme ancient immortal realms, they had only been to many particle worlds and seen many mines. It was said that these mines were formed from meteorites that fell from constellations. But now, they were truly only a step away from a constellation. It's rumored that there were heavenly deities who spent countless years in the starry space, searching for the 9 heavenly layers. Who would have thought that there would actually be an ancient path that leads directly to the 9 heavenly layers? A heavenly deity sighed. In the ancient records of the supreme ancient immortal realms, there were records of people who went to the 9 heavenly layers before. Those heavenly deities with extremely firm wills definitely wanted to go beyond the 9 heavenly layers to take a look. But it was rumored that they had to spend countless years before they could truly reach the 9 heavenly layers. Very few heavenly deities would have such great determination. To heavenly deities, their perception could reach the 9 heavenly layers. They basically wouldn't think about using many years to explore the starry space. Maybe only heavenly deities who reached a certain cultivation realm and wanted to pursue a higher level would have such thoughts. But now that they arrived here, who could stop the palpitations in their hearts? Nikhang, let's go take a look at the constellations. Qin Dangtian walked to the side of Goddess Nikhang. He only saw Goddess Nichang's beautiful eyes staring at the boundless ancient path. Did her father disappear here? Go ahead. Goddess Nikhang spoke in a light voice. Her beautiful eyes were still staring at the ancient path. Okay then. If there's anything, just send me a message. Qin Dangtian nodded. After that, his silhouette flashed as he soared into the starry space. Senior brother, I wish to go take a look. Jun Mengchen's heart stirred. No one would be able to suppress the desire in their hearts for constellations. This was the source of their cultivation. Go on, find the constellation you want to go to. Qin Wendian nodded. Uncle you should go as well. This is an opportunity for you. Qi Yu nodded. His silhouette soared up into the air. After that, Qin Wendian also soared up into the starry space, heading towards a constellation. Many experts headed in different directions, all of them wanting to probe the secrets of the constellations. How did you get here? At this moment, a voice rang out from the sky. This was the silhouette of a true divinity. In the starry space, a gigantic face appeared as a heaven-shaking might bore down. The expressions of everyone were filled with terror. That face was actually even larger than a constellation. It was too shocking. Senior, we came here through the heaven vault. Someone spoke. This person was a heavenly deity. However, even a heavenly deity still addressed this person as senior. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful this person was. I naturally know that you guys came here through the heaven vault. However, how can the path to Godfall be so easy to traverse? Many of you aren't qualified to come here. That figure spoke again, coldly speaking. Once, I gave up everything before I could reach the end of the heaven vault. After arriving here, I almost died. As for you guys, you actually managed to reach this place so easily. How did you do it? Clearly, he was very unhappy. The hearts of everyone trembled. This expert was actually an ancient heavenly deity who came here to explore the secrets of the heaven vault. I'm the one who brought them here. Only to see that at this moment, a voice rang out through the starry space. That white-robed figure stood in the air. His body was extremely tiny, but as he stood there, it felt like everyone could see him clearly. Who are you? Why are you doing this, destroying the heaven vault? The face in the air coldly asked. Since there's such a place that allows cultivators in the world to come into contact with a higher level and search for the origin of cultivation, why must you seal off the path here? The white-robed young man calmly spoke. Clearly, he felt that this ancient path should be opened, allowing cultivators to reach this place. What a magnanimous fellow! In that case, why did we give up our lives to come here back then? Since they shouldn't belong here, I want all of them to die. The expert in the air coldly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, countless people felt fear in their hearts. This ancient person actually wanted their lives. What if I don't agree? The white-robed figure calmly spoke. Then you can go and die first. That expert from the starry space spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, that gigantic face seemed to be attached to a constellation. The light from that constellation directly locked onto the white-robed young man. After that constellation erupted with resplendent light of the great Tao, gushing forth, wanting to destroy this entire starry space. Since this is the case, I'll strip you of everything. The white-robed young man calmly spoke. He stepped out, allowing the boundless radiance of the great Tao to land on him. That beam of light that could penetrate through time blasted into him, yet it couldn't move him at all. The crowd only saw his silhouette directly shuttling through the blinding beam of light, following the direction of the astral light, moving towards that incomparably gigantic constellation. Die! That expert from the starry space roared in rage. His constellation gushed forth with destructive might, as though all the energy from his constellation was unleashed at the same time. Numerous beams of light arced through the starry space, wanting to penetrate the heavens. However, none of the beams of light could penetrate the body of the white-robed young man. He lifted his hand and pointed a finger at the starry space. A beam of light capable of splitting the heavens and earth shot up into the starry space, landing on the constellation where the gigantic face was. At this instant, under the shocked gazes of everyone, cracks appeared on that gigantic constellation. The cracks rapidly expanded as the gigantic face contorted, as though it was in extreme pain. It howled in rage, "No, this is impossible. I'm the ruler of this constellation. How can you do this? I can rule the heavens. Your heart isn't worthy of the Tao." As the sound of the white-robed young man's voice faded, that constellation crumbled under the power of the countless cracks. After that, it transformed into meteors that fell from the sky. No. That person earlier let out a roar of despair. He had cultivated here for so many years. Was he going to die so easily? No, he wasn't willing to accept this. On the ancient heaven vault pathway, as well as the people who were heading to the other constellations, they all personally witnessed this scene. Great waves rose in their hearts. There were no words to describe the shock they were feeling right now. In this world, there was actually an expert who could shatter a constellation with a single finger. He said that he could rule the heavens. He said that the heart of that person wasn't worthy of the Tao. Hence, he acted, shattering the constellation with a single finger. At this moment, even heavenly deities had a feeling of wanting to prostrate themselves in worship. If they were gods, what sort of existence was that white-robed young man? If he became a king, he could be conferred the title of God King, the king of all gods. Qin Wendian drew in a deep breath. The white-robed young man he met in the legendary place of the Tiandao Sacred Academy was actually so powerful to such a level? This has already surpassed the eons. When would he be able to reach such a level? He said that he could rule the heavens. He also once told himself that humans could triumph over the heavens. The heavenly Tao was merely the strength of humans. Constellations were the source of energy? However, he could shatter a constellation with a single finger. There are many mines and meteors in the immortal realms. That strike earlier most probably means that there would be many more meteor mines in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Could it be that meteor mines are formed like this? Qin Wendian felt that this was a little ridiculous. This shouldn't be possible. If there were experts fighting on a constellation, causing the constellation to crumble, causing meteors to fall into the supreme ancient immortal realms, this might have happened before. However, shattering a constellation with a single finger? Since ancient times, it was unknown if such a thing still existed. This is the true realm I want to pursue. Qin Dangtian stared at the white-robed young man in the air. At this moment, a fervent look could be seen in his eyes. If he could reach such a realm, who in the world would be able to stand against him? He could even be conferred the title of God King in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Many experts clenched their fists. The heavenly deity realm wasn't the limit. The path of the great Tao was still very long. After the white-robed young man shattered the constellation, his silhouette flashed as he directly departed. He was as carefree as ever, as though everything in the world was so simple. It was just the power of a single finger. Qin Wendian drew in a deep breath and continued flying towards another constellation. His target was the same as Jian Junlai's, a sword-shaped constellation. When Qin Wendian neared it, he could already sense a terrifying sword might gushing forth from it, wanting to destroy him. Once, he could only rely on his perception to reach the 9 heavenly layers. When he neared a constellation, he would be able to sense the power of the constellation. But now, his body was truly close to the constellation. That feeling was countless times clearer and more intense. With an intention of his will, the astral light from the constellation cascaded into his body. Although this wasn't a constellation he had formed an innate connection with, at such a close distance, he could still absorb sword-attributed energy from it. The closer he got, the more intense the sword intent grew. Qin Wendian could faintly sense the might of the great Tao of swords descending upon him. If he got any closer, he would be in danger. When I sense the constellation from the ground, what I sense isn't the true power of the constellation. Qin Wendian silently mused. Sword light revolved around him, allowing the sword rivers to rain down on him. However, none of them were able to penetrate through him. Finally, Qin Wendian's body arrived at the top of the constellation. Every inch of land here seemed to contain sword intent, the Tao of the sword. Chapter 1883. Qin Wendian stood on the constellation. His surroundings were enveloped by the Tao of swords, resembling heavenly might. The entire sword-shaped constellation was the same. At this moment, Qin Wendian truly understood. So it turned out that when they condensed a connection with their constellation and awakened their astral souls, they could only obtain the simplest form of astral energy from their constellations. Only when they stepped into the ultimate realm would they be considered to have truly obtained the power of their constellations, the so-called heavenly Tao energy. Each of these constellations contained the energy of the heavenly Taos. Every single constellation was the same. Qin Wendian stared at the 9 heavenly layers, at the boundless starry space. He couldn't help but feel a sense of bewilderment in his heart. If each and every constellation represented the might of the heavenly Tao, how did the millions and millions of constellations in the 9 heavenly layers come to be? Could it have existed since the beginning of humanity? This sky was truly filled with countless mysteries. He wondered if he would be able to pry into its secrets after stepping into the realm of that white-robed young man. However, Qin Wendian understood what it meant for them to come here. This meant that everyone here would have a chance to sense different heavenly Taos at a close distance. This time around, it was sufficient to cause the entire supreme ancient immortal realms to go crazy. He could already predict that experts at the supreme ancient immortal realms and above would all rush over here. Just like what he had expected, right now, after the experts of the various powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms received the news, they all rushed over to the boundless sea. After that, the news was circulated to the various powers in the supreme ancient immortal realms, causing a huge commotion in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The legendary Heaven Vault was actually connected to the 9 heavenly layers. The experts in the Heaven Vault were in a frenzy as well. After they sensed the power contained within the constellations, all of them started to cultivate frenziedly. They knew that this was a heaven-defying opportunity, an opportunity that had never been seen before since ancient times. Regardless of whether it was to world overlords or heavenly deities, this was the case for all of them. Qin Wendian immersed himself in comprehending the power of the constellations. He felt that he was getting closer and closer to the ultimate realm. Maybe, this trip to the Heaven Vault would be the opportunity for him to break through. Cultivation wasn't something that could be done in a day or night. When the experts in the Heaven Vault were cultivating, the experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms also started to arrive. Naturally, they were all peak characters, powerful world overlords and heavenly deities. Although the path to Godfall was directly opened by the white-robed young man, the first 2 hurdles, especially the Blood Sea, weren't something ordinary people could pass. The experts from the peak powers naturally arrived the fastest. This was especially so for those powers that were originally in the heaven region. The Qin clan, Qianquan sect, 9 Heavens Mystical Palace, all of them arrived one after another. In addition, there were many heavenly deities here as well. The ancient pathway that led to the 9 heavenly layers, to them, was also extremely tempting. Qin Zheng led the experts from the Qin clan here. Even his wife came as well. His wife was extremely beautiful and was also a heavenly deity. Back then, she was the most outstanding female in the Qin clan. When Qin Yuanfeng was young, he was secretly in love with her. When she stood there, no one dared to look at her directly. Dang. The woman stared at Qin Dangtian. Her beautiful eyes flickered with a gentle light. Her son, Qin Dangtian, had always been her pride. Mother, you came as well. Qin Dangtian's figure flashed as he flew over. I've always wanted to go up to the 9 heavenly layers to take a look. Now that there's a chance, I naturally came. Many elders have come as well. The woman spoke to Qin Dangtian. Qin Dangtian could see that there were many heavenly deities from the Qin clan who came. Why didn't Grandpa come to take a look? Qin Dangtian asked. Your grandpa is currently in closed-door seclusion. It's not good to disturb him. Since the heaven vault has already opened, there will still be opportunities in the future. There's no need to be in such a hurry. Qin Zheng spoke. Qin Dangtian nodded. Qin Zheng walked forward and stared at the ancient pathway. The astral light from the 9 heavenly layers cascaded downwards. The constellations were incomparably dazzling. He silently mused in his heart. Back then, Qin Yuanfeng and his father came to the heaven vault before. Did they come here before? They should have. In addition, the treasure Qin Tiangang obtained back then might have originated from here. In the end, it was unknown how the treasure ended up in Qin Yuanfeng's hands. This matter had always been a secret of the Qin clan. Only an extremely few peak powers on the same level as the Qin clan knew of some secrets. Behind him, more and more experts arrived. Qin Zheng turned his head and glanced at them. The woman in the lead was extremely outstanding. She wasn't in any way inferior compared to Qin Zheng's wife. In fact, she was even more outstanding. She simply didn't seem like a woman from the mortal world. The 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden has also arrived. Qin Zheng spoke. This woman was none other than the palace mistress of the 9 Heavens Mystical Palace. She was known as the #1 immortal in the 9 Heavens, the 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden. The 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden's aura was transcendent. She glanced at Qin Zheng and spoke in a light voice. Isn't clan leader Qin here as well? With regards to the miraculous scene before us, what does the 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden think? Qin Zheng asked. A great fortune in the supreme ancient immortal realms. The 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden smiled. Qin Zheng nodded. This was indeed a great fortune. Most probably, many people here would experience a qualitative transformation. The two of you are here so early. Another voice rang out. A middle-aged man clad in violet gold robes with a crown on his head walked over. His body floated above the ancient path, like the Lord of the Universe. This man was none other than the Qianquan sect leader, someone known as the controller of heaven and earth. You aren't slow either. Qin Zheng calmly spoke. The Qianquan sect leader smiled. He stared at the 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden. It has been a long time since I saw the 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden. You are still as breathtaking as ever, transcending the mortal world. It's truly a pity that you don't want to marry me. The 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden glanced at him. She wasn't angry. They were acquainted with each other very long ago and had been competing for power in the heaven region for many years. Oh yeah, that useless disciple of mine, Lin Xiao, has been chasing after your 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden every day. I think it's impossible for you to pass on your position within a short period of time. Why don't you marry the 9 Heavens Mystical Maiden to my disciple? The Qianquan sect leader spoke. The mystical maiden who was rushing over coldly glanced at the Qianquan sect leader when she heard this. This old fellow was much more despicable compared to Lin Xiao. Let's go. The Nine Heavens mystical maiden couldn't be bothered to argue with the Qiankuan sect leader. No matter what, as a woman, she would be at a disadvantage. Hence, she decided to ignore him. The group of fairies soared into the starry space, attracting the gazes of countless experts. They were too beautiful, causing many people to sigh in admiration. Was that the Nine Heavens mystical maiden, the #1 beauty in the Nine Heavens? Her beauty was transcendent. This was especially so when she soared into the starry space and bathed in the starlight. Dang, where is Nikhang? Qin Zheng's wife asked. She wanted to see her future daughter-in-law. She hasn't seen her before. Her daughter-in-law was the #1 beauty in the heaven region. Her beauty shouldn't lose out to her, right? Nikhang went to cultivate. Qin Dangtian replied. I wish to meet with her. Qin Zheng's wife smiled. Qin Dangtian hesitated for a moment before he nodded. He took out his messaging crystal and spoke. Nikhang, my parents are here. Mother wishes to meet with you. Goddess Nikhang was currently cultivating on a constellation. After she received Qin Dangtian's message, she hesitated and didn't really want to go. But in the end, she still agreed. After some time, she came to the ancient pathway again and saw Qin Zheng and his wife. She nodded lightly to them. Mother, Nichang's personality is like this. Please don't mind her. Qin Dangtian spoke. As expected of a supreme beauty. Compared to me when I was young, she isn't inferior at all. She is extremely compatible with my son Dangtian. Qin Zheng's wife smiled. She didn't mind Nichang's attitude. Such a beauty naturally had her own personality. She wouldn't mind such a minor matter. Nikhang, after I return, I will discuss with Dang Er's father about a good date. After you join our Qin clan, we will definitely not mistreat you. In the future, you will be the mother of the Qin clan. Qin Zheng's wife smiled. Nichang's expression didn't change at all. She was as calm as ever, like her heart was like still water. You shouldn't interfere in the matters of youngsters. You might make Nikhang feel awkward. Qin Zheng smiled. Nikhang, you and Dang Er should go. Father, mother, we will go and cultivate. Qin Dangtian nodded. After that, he left together with Nikhang, flying towards the constellation in the air. After they left, the smile on Qin Zheng's wife's face vanished. She spoke. I once heard some bad rumors regarding the legendary place in Tiandao's sacred academy. Do you know about this matter? Qin Zheng's eyes flashed. He naturally knew about this matter. If not, he wouldn't have brought the 3 world overlords of the Qin clan to kneel and apologize to deity Chu. It was because he didn't want Nichang's reputation to suffer any damage. How could his daughter-in-law have any scandals? I've already settled this matter. There's no need to care too much about these minor matters. Back then, didn't he also like you? Given how outstanding Nikhang is, it's only normal that she attracted his son's attention. Qin Zheng calmly spoke. You should know about the relationship between deity Chu and Qin Tiangang. Qin Yuanfeng has also paid a visit to deity Chu many times before. Deity Chu treats him much more cordially compared to you. I don't feel it strange that Nikhang has a connection with his son and wouldn't mind such a minor matter. However, his son hasn't been captured even now. This shouldn't be the case. Qin Zheng's wife coldly spoke. Her voice contained a hint of imposingness. As the mother of the Qin clan, Qin Zheng's wife, she naturally wasn't an ordinary woman. Qin Zheng's eyes flashed with coldness. Indeed, even a heavenly deity of his Qin clan, Qin Zhong, died. However, Qin Wenin was still nowhere to be found. Let me give you an idea. The heaven vault has opened and experts are everywhere. Do you think Qin Yuanfeng's son would miss this opportunity? Qin Zheng's wife spoke. Qin Zheng's eyes flashed. He dares to come here? Why wouldn't he dare? Back then, what didn't Qin Yuanfeng dare to do? He knew he would die for sure and even dared to kill his way into the Qin clan. Qin Zheng's wife turned her gaze to the experts in the starry space. Maybe he was hiding among the crowd. Qin Zheng's eyes flashed. Since Qin Wenyan could survive Qin Zhong's pursuit, it wasn't strange for him to have some concealment methods. This was indeed an idea. Chapter 1884. Qin Zheng inclined his head and stared at the starry space before him. The experts who came here have all entered their respective constellations to cultivate. Even if Qin Wentian was here, it wouldn't be easy for him to locate them. This was the starry space and not the ground. If it was on the ground, his immortal sense would be able to envelop this boundlessly vast region, making it so that no one would be able to escape his eyes. But in the 9 heavenly layers, no matter how strong his immortal sense was, it was impossible for him to scan them. A single constellation in the 9 heavenly layers was already sufficiently vast, comparable to an immortal realm. Some people wanted to head to a constellation that was further away. If it wasn't for this ancient pathway that could shorten the distance, it was unknown how long they would have to spend if they had to travel by themselves. This ancient pathway seemed to be able to extend all the way to the 9 heavenly layers. Tell everyone to pay attention. Let's go to the constellations to take a look. Didn't you always want to go to the 9 heavenly layers? Now that you have finally arrived, it can be considered as fulfilling your dream. Qin Zheng held his wife's hand. The two of them walked forward together. Many people felt envy when they saw them. That was the Qin clan leader and Qin mother, yet their relationship was still so good. Even the 2 leaders of the Qin clan were filled with curiosity towards the constellations, let alone the others. For the next few years, more and more people came here. After a few years, it could be said that over half of the peak characters of the supreme ancient immortal realms had appeared here. Luo Shenchuan also came. He came together with the demon sovereigns of the Demon God Mountain. When he saw the boundless starry space, his heart was filled with shock. This was too mystical. Luo Shenchuan and the others flew towards the constellations. For stellar martial cultivators, when they saw the source of their cultivation, the constellations, one could very well imagine how they would feel. Today, in the sky, a constellation suddenly erupted with a startling radiance. This constellation was even brighter compared to the other constellations, shining with a dazzling light. This caused many people to turn their gazes over. They could see that the might of the great Tao was condensing on that constellation. Above that constellation, a human silhouette could be seen standing there. Originally, a person should be extremely tiny when standing on a constellation, but that constellation seemed to be able to reflect his silhouette in the light. That was a slender and extraordinarily handsome young man. At this moment, astral light flowed unceasingly around him, like divine essence cleansing his body. He's receiving the heavenly Tao. This is attaining the Tao. The eyes of some experts gleamed with sharpness. On the ancient heaven vault pathway, the first person to attain the Tao appeared. He was about to break through to the heavenly deity realm. Heavenly deities, this was an achievement that countless people would never be able to reach in their entire lives. But now, there was actually someone who managed to do so within a few years of arriving on a constellation. Naturally, this was also possible because his cultivation base wasn't too far away from the heavenly deity realm. After that, he naturally broke through to the heavenly deity realm and everything happened naturally. Another heavenly deity would appear in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Someone spoke. Heavenly deities were the ultimate peak existences in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Heavenly deities could establish heavenly deities, and even among the peak powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms, heavenly deities were considered the true core strength. He didn't know which force this heavenly god belonged to. Many people realized that they did not know the expert who had stepped into the divine state. That young man who broke through to the heavenly deity realm stood on the constellation, guiding the Tao into his body. A world appeared around him. It felt like he wanted to fuse together with the heavenly Taos and the constellation. Within this world, a terrifying energy circulated around it. This energy was none other than the samsara cycle. After cultivating for 2 lifetimes, I've finally made up for the regrets of my previous life and stepped out on a path that I had never walked before. The young man drew in a deep breath. He was none other than Hua Taishu. In his previous life, he was already a character that stood at the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms. He was a heavenly deity. However, although heavenly deities were the peak powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms, There were far more than a single heavenly deity in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Also, there were strong and weak ones. As for this heavenly deity, he once felt defeated because of a deity-level battle. He was unwilling to accept this. He wanted to recultivate and comprehend an even stronger heavenly Tao. Hence, he entered his own cycle of reincarnation and cultivated anew until his master, the myriad incarnations' immortal king, died in his embrace. Only then did his memories awaken once more. He knew who he was and what he wanted to pursue in the future. Upon seeing Hua Taishu achieving his Tao, many world overlords had looks of envy on their faces. When would they be able to comprehend their own heavenly Taos and step into the true legendary realm, the peak of the supreme ancient immortal realms? This time around, it was an opportunity. They had to grab hold of it or no one knew what would happen to them in the future. In the blink of an eye, many years passed. In the boundless starry space, on the constellations above, another expert achieved his Tao. When he achieved his Tao, the constellation he was on grew brighter, resembling a unique constellation in the starry space. Before comprehending the Tao, tens of years were nothing. To experts who could reach this place, 100 or 1,000 years was like a white steed flashing by in the blink of an eye. But in the external world of the immortal realms, the commotion caused by the heaven vault was still ongoing. This storm has already lasted for tens of years. It was rumored that right now, many peak experts of the supreme ancient immortal realms have all headed to the heaven vault. Countless world overlords of the supreme ancient immortal realms have all arrived at the boundless sea region outside the heaven vault. Right now, this sea region could even be buried by the sea of people. Countless experts from the various regions of the supreme ancient immortal realms all rushed here. They received news after news that during these years, there were already several peak characters who achieved their Taos and became heavenly deities. However, there was something strange. It was said that these people who achieved their Taos were all experts who had entered the legendary place of the Tiandao Sacred Academy. Many people sighed in admiration. Seems like the legendary place of the Tiandao Sacred Academy truly lived up to its name. It helped those supreme geniuses to build a solid foundation, allowing them to comprehend their Taos here in the starry space. In the azure mystic immortal realms, in the Emperor Palace, Qing'e, Qingqing, Yiqianyu, Princess Kitamura, even the experts from the Battle Saint tribe, the myriad Devil Islands, Chongqing the Great, the Southern Phoenix Matriarch and the others were all waiting. They all knew about the events that happened in the supreme ancient immortal realms and knew that the heaven vault had opened. During these years, they didn't take the initiative to disturb Qin Wenyan. From the news transmitted back from the Qingqing realm, there were already quite a few experts who managed to verify their Taos. They knew of Qin Wenyan's desire to become a heavenly deity. They were filled with anticipation that Qin Wenyan would also be able to obtain his Tao. For countless days and nights, Mo Qingqing and Qing'e would stare at the starry sky, thinking about the person they missed. Was he currently in the boundless starry sky? Time continued to flow. Qin Wenyan no longer stayed on a single constellation. During these years, he traveled to many constellations, comprehending different types of energy and different types of heavenly Taos. Every time he had free time, he would send a message to Qingqing and Qing'e telling them not to worry about him. Today, Qin Wenyan once again returned to a sword-type constellation. He released his sword-type astral soul, an astral soul that originated from the 8th heavenly layer. Constellations by themselves contain heavenly Taos. In that case, astral souls originate from constellations. Astral souls by themselves should be the Tao. Qin Wenyan silently mused. The insights I gained in the past weren't wrong. His body floated in the air above the constellation. His dazzling astral soul was repelling the astral energy in the surroundings. Astral souls could form the Tao, but they were also the carriers of the great Tao. The Tao of astral souls wasn't limited to a single type of energy. It was able to fuse and comprehend the various types of energy. For example, the Tao might radiating from this sword-type constellation was in the form of a sword. However, its Tao didn't only contain a single type of energy. That was the source origin of the Tao. It was merely the foundation of the heavenly Tao. Each constellation was a world, and a world naturally wouldn't only contain a single type of energy. There would be all types of energy, it was just that one of them was the main body. Right now, Qin Wenyin was using the sword as a breakthrough point. The various types of energy entered his body, fusing into his sword-type astral soul. Gradually, a terrifying sword domain manifested around the constellation, repelling all external energy. This was because the Tao he comprehended was different from the Tao of the constellation. The sword domain of his astral soul grew increasingly resplendent, radiating light in all directions as it expanded outwards. This sword domain contained a terrifying amount of energy. Finally, an extremely resplendent beam of light radiated outwards. Qin Wentian's astral soul transformed into a heavenly sword that floated in the air. This entire space seemed to have transformed into a sword domain world. Within this sword domain world, sword intent flowed unceasingly, as though it could penetrate through space and time. Is this the Tao? Qin Wentian mumbled. In an instant, boundless sword intent gushed forth from the constellation. With the ancient sword floating behind him as the center, the boundless sword intent slowly circulated. At this moment, this constellation became extremely dazzling, attracting the attention of everyone in the world. Someone broke through again? Many people had strange expressions on their faces as they stared at this constellation. They actually didn't know who this person was. Could there really be such a powerful hidden heaven chosen that existed in this world? Qin Zheng and his wife were currently cultivating on a constellation. At this moment, the gazes of the two of them also turned in the direction of the constellation. The eyes of Qin Zheng's wife flickered with a terrifying golden light as she stared at the constellation Qin Wenyan was on. At the instant her eyes landed on Qin Wenyan, the golden light seemed to be restoring Qin Wentian's countenance. That disguise was directly stripped away, and Qin Wentian's disguise was being torn apart bit by bit. When she saw his countenance clearly, a sense of familiarity appeared in her heart. This sense of familiarity caused her beautiful eyes to flash with a dazzling light. Qin Wentian's countenance resembled him. Not only that, his countenance had been altered. His son has actually comprehended to such a level? Qin Zheng's wife spoke. Qin Zheng's eyes flickered as he stared at Qin Wenyan. Are you saying that it's him? There's no mistake. A smile could be seen on his wife's face. However, the smile on her beautiful face gave off a feeling of coldness. Chapter 1885. Qin Zheng stared in the direction of Qin Wenyan as coldness flashed in his eyes. He knew what sort of ability his wife cultivated. Since he was certain that the person she was looking for was Qin Wenyan, there shouldn't be any mistake. Let's go. Qin Zheng spoke. After that, he stepped out, speeding towards the constellation where Qin Wenyan was at. The speed of the two of them was incomparably fast. In the field of vision, there was basically no way to see their afterimages. They vanished the moment they appeared, speeding through the starry space. And at this moment, Qin Wenyan was still in a state of cultivation. His foundation hadn't stabilized yet, and he was still sensing his own strength. He didn't notice that there were two silhouettes moving closer and closer to him. Dang. At this moment, Qin Zheng's wife transmitted a voice transmission to Qin Dangtian. Qin Dangtian replied, "Mother, what's wrong? The son of your clan uncle has appeared. He is none other than the person who is currently breaking through. Head there immediately." Qin Zheng's wife spoke. On another constellation, Qin Dangtian stared at Qin Wenyan as a cold light flashed in his eyes. Qin Wenyan actually disguised his appearance? Killing intent flashed in his eyes. Nick Hang was about to become his wife. He could ignore the matters between her and Qin Wenyan, but Qin Wenyan must not be left alive. With a flash of his silhouette, he also flew towards the constellation where Qin Wenyan was at. Other than them, there was another person who had been paying attention to Qin Wenyan. Qin Wentian's grandfather, Luo Shenchuan. When he came here, he contacted Qin Wenyan and knew that the person who was currently breaking through was none other than his grandson. Luo Shenchuan felt gratified in his heart. His grandson's cultivation talent had already surpassed his parents'. But at this moment he saw two figures walking through the starry space. These two figures were incomparably tiny and insignificant in the starry space. However, the vision of heavenly deities was also extremely powerful. When he saw them walking towards Qin Wendian, his eyes flashed with a dazzling light. He immediately took out his messaging crystal and spoke. Wendian, Qin Zheng and his wife have discovered you. They are currently rushing towards your direction. Qin Wendian, who was in the midst of cultivation, abruptly opened his eyes and halted his cultivation. His silhouette flickered as he left with no hesitation, directly stepping out of the constellation and flying towards the starry space. His speed was also incomparably fast. The direction he was heading towards was the ancient heaven vault pathway. If he used the ancient heaven vault pathway, he would be able to take a shortcut and would be able to reach a very high altitude. When his silhouette vanished from the constellation no longer reflected his silhouette. The beautiful eyes of Qin Zheng and his wife flickered as they halted their steps. He left. Qin Zheng frowned. Although they saw Qin Wendian's silhouette earlier, that was merely through the projection of the constellation. In truth, the distance between them and Qin Wendian was extremely far. The distance between constellations in the starry space was equivalent to crossing an entire world. Even with the cultivation bases of Qin Zheng and his wife, it wasn't something they could reach in a short period of time. He's there. At this moment, Qin Zheng's wife turned her gaze towards the ancient heaven vault pathway and found Qin Wendian's silhouette. The two of them instantly changed their direction and sped towards the ancient heaven vault pathway. Qin Wendian actually wanted to fly towards the 9 heavenly layers. Seems like he discovered them and wanted to hide in the boundless starry space. Luo Shenchuan was also rushing over there. Qin Wendian traversed numerous astral rivers. It was like he wanted to reach the end of the 9 heavenly layers. Vile spawn, why are you fleeing in such a hurry after seeing your uncle? Qin Zheng roared into the air. His voice seemed to contain a magical power, penetrating through the 9 heavenly layers and permeating the boundless space, ringing out in Qin Wendian's ears. Qin Wendian's eyes were cold. As expected, he was exposed. He didn't expect that even with his disguising technique, he still couldn't escape from his opponent's eyes. Qin Zheng, back then you were merely someone who was defeated by my father. You relied on the strength of the Qin clan to defeat my father, but now, you are actually the Qin clan leader? What a joke! Qin Wendian spoke, his voice like thunder. The eyes of many who heard his voice flashed as expressions of interest appeared on their faces. After that, some people saw Qin Wendian's countenance gradually changing, returning to his original appearance. So it's him. Those who were acquainted with Qin Wendian had strange looks on their faces. They didn't expect that the person who broke through was him, the son of Qin Yuanfeng of the Qin clan. But now that he was discovered by Qin Zheng, most probably he would be in trouble. Qin Zheng, the Qin clan leader, has been in charge of the Qin clan for many years. His cultivation base was already unfathomably deep. Even his son, Qin Dangtian, was known as Heaven's Son. Ordinary heavenly deities wouldn't be a match for him at all. In addition, Qin Wendian just broke through and hasn't completely stepped through that gate. He hasn't even condensed his final astral soul yet. Luo Shenchuan is rushing over. Someone saw Luo Shenchuan, the former clan leader of the Luoshan clan. Seems like things were about to get lively. Right now, experts from the supreme ancient immortal realms gathered here. It was unknown how many people there were. They were all scattered around the constellations that were closer to the ancient path. When they saw the situation on the ancient path, all of them had expressions of interest on their faces. In fact, there were even some who sped towards the ancient path, preparing to watch the show. Vile spawn, your father was a traitor in the past. Who would have thought that he would give birth to a vile spawn like you? Don't flee anymore, it's useless. Uncle won't kill you. Qin Zheng continued. Qin Wendian continued madly rushing forward. At the same time, he already arrived at the highest point of the 9 heavenly layers. He passed through numerous astral rivers and arrived at the peak of the 9 heavenly layers, wanting to reach the end. An extremely terrifying pressure enveloped boring down on Qin Wenyin, causing him to feel his footsteps becoming heavy. In the 9 heavenly layers, when one tried to sense it, the higher one went, the greater the pressure would be. The truth was indeed so. The higher the altitude, the more terrifying the energy contained within the constellations. In the past, there were heavenly deities who tried to ascend, but they didn't dare to casually enter. At the end of the ancient path, there was a stone monument with the words God's extinction path engraved on it. God's extinction, it was like if one continued forward, it would be a dead end. The ancient path was severed and ahead of him was a boundless universe. In that universe, Qin Wenyin actually saw a few corpses floating there, causing him to feel a chill in his heart. Qin Wentian's silhouette flashed as he decisively left the ancient path, heading towards the starry space at the side. This place was already the 9th heavenly layer. Even with his current cultivation base, he already felt extremely uncomfortable here. It was like he was being suppressed. There weren't many constellations here, and the distance between each constellation was very far apart. However, the energy contained within each constellation was extremely terrifying. If I break through in the heaven vault, I can directly walk to the end of the ancient path and condense a connection with the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. A thought flashed through Qin Wentian's mind, but he didn't think too much about it. Qin Zheng was already catching up to him. "Vile spawn, you still dare to flee?" Qin Zheng's voice rang out. It felt like his voice was right behind Qin Wenyin. He stood in the starry space and turned his head back, staring at the 2 silhouettes that were getting closer and closer. If he continued to flee, it was already meaningless. The 2 of them soared through the starry space. Qin Wentian's gaze couldn't catch their silhouettes, and soon, they arrived before Qin Wenyin, standing in the starry space. Qin Wenyin surveyed the 2 before him. He had met them before, a very long time ago. In the memories of his father, the tiny astral being, the man was Qin Zheng and the woman was none other than the heaven-chosen of the Qin clan whom his father had a crush on when he was young. After that, she married Qin Zheng, and now, she was already the mother of the Qin clan. She was indeed very beautiful, exuding a noble aura. Her thin red lips had a faint smile on them, but it caused Qin Wenyin to feel a sense of coldness. As expected, he resembles your father. Is he still alive? The woman asked. Right now, the Qin clan speculated that Qin Yuanfeng might still be alive. Naturally, he is doing very well. You guys will meet him sooner or later and slaughter your way to the Qin clan once again. Qin Wenyin was very calm when facing the 2 of them. Is that so? I heard your name is Wenyin. Has your father mentioned me to you before? The woman still had a smile on her face. My father once said that when he was young, his eyesight wasn't good and he treated you guys as his family and friends. In addition, he once felt that you were beautiful, but after he met my mother, he felt that he was blind back then. Qin Wenyin smiled. Your father wouldn't say that. He isn't as sharp-tongued as you. The woman smiled confidently, like she understood Qin Yuanfeng very well. Vile creature, since you are a junior, I don't wish to act against you. Destroy your own cultivation base and follow me back to the Qin clan. Since you have the bloodline of my Qin clan, I won't kill you. Qin Zheng stood with his hands behind his back as he spoke arrogantly. He had such confidence. He was Qin Zheng, the clan leader of the Qin clan. Qin Zheng also said the same thing to you. Qin Wendian laughed. Qin Zheng wanted him to destroy his own cultivation base and return to the Qin clan? How ridiculous! If that was the case, he might as well die in battle. How did Qin Zheng die? Qin Zheng thought of Qin Zheng as he coldly asked. I killed him. Qin Wendian replied. If not, who else do you think I killed him? At that time when you were a world overlord, who else participated in the killing of Qin Zheng? Qin Zheng continued to interrogate. If you don't believe me, why bother asking? Qin Wendian calmly spoke. How stubborn. Since you are unwilling to cripple your own cultivation base, I can only act. Qin Zheng calmly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, a fearsome heavenly might bore down, enveloping this entire starry space. Qin Wenyin only felt himself being enveloped by the absolute power of the great Tao. A supreme formation seemed to have appeared in this space as divine Tao light flashed. At this moment, Qin Wenyin felt his body being imprisoned. There seemed to be boundless divine Tao light piercing through the starry space, locking down everything. Qin Wentian's body, his feet, his surroundings were all filled with divine Tao light that intersected with one another, resembling a divine formation. Qin Wenyin was in the center of the divine Tao light. He couldn't even move his body. Qin Zheng, he had another title in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Ever since he became the clan leader of the Qin clan, very few people mentioned his name. Qin Zheng's name already had enough weight. His other title was none other than the divine punishment heavenly deity. Qin Zheng waved his finger and in an instant, the divine formation formed from divine Tao light slashed down divine punishment, wanting to split apart the heavens and earth, annihilating all existences as it slashed towards Qin Wenyin. He controlled the might of this attack and wouldn't directly kill Qin Wenyin. Qin Wentian's life was still useful. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.